What is happening, people? This is the Dead Red Podcast, Big Blue in the Bronx YouTube channel. Proud to start this, and great day today for baseball. If you've been watching, obviously, thank all the people that will be joining us throughout the comment section and everything like that. Shouts to Cherry, already shouted him out already. But, me and Sox have been talking a little while about this now, and I said when baseball starts, we'll do this on a consistent basis. Sox, how's your day going, man?
What's up, man? I hope you got me clear here. I'm doing well. I'm really happy that baseball's back. We have a lot to look forward to all of a sudden now. It was starting to look really gloomy and doomy there for a second, but we're back on baseball. We got a lot to talk about. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm surprised. And maybe this is just because, we're baseball fans. We're expecting a lot of excitement and stuff. The free agent window opened at 7, and nothing has happened yet. And apparently, according to Buster Olney or some of the beat reporters, talks have already started. So I guess they're busy in talks and stuff like that. And we'll definitely go into our teams, some of the new rules and stuff like that. It's been a very long lockout. It's been 99 days, and we're just happy to get baseball back. And opening day, I'll see what I'm doing that day specifically. It's going to be at 1, so it's going to be tough for me to decide, between school or actually going to the stadium. But the Boston Red Sox played the Yankees on opening day because of the canceled 1 week. So, that's definitely going to be interesting there. And obviously, once again, apparently we're supposed to be in for a very, very interesting weekend because that's when free agency is really supposed to hit in its fullest extent. Hopefully I'll be staying home for that or whatever the case may be. I know we're supposed to get some winter storm. It's supposed to go on Saturday. Shouts to Joe. What's going on, my man? But I guess first we could start off by going, over some of these new rules. Obviously,
Sounds good.
Yeah, obviously, they agreed on a couple of things, and I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, we'll go down a list of things. We'll also go down to the thresholds and all that other stuff. I want to get your opinion on this, and obviously, this is a dead horse right now because we're looking at. Listen, we got baseball back. Spring training starts in a week in terms of games. The mandatory report date is in 3 days. How did you feel about the lockout? Like, were you on, okay, it's both sides, the players and the owners share a lot of blame for this, or did you feel specific towards one side? Because I felt at times there was one side and there was another side, but also at times I felt, okay, this is both sides really contributing to this whole mess.
Yeah, you know what? I towards the end there, I got to a point where I'm okay with the players finally standing up for themselves, putting their feet in the ground and trying to get what they feel they deserve, because what was the last lockout? 93, 94, I believe. And the players just didn't put their feet in the ground like they did. If they're going to go out and do a lockout, I agree with them doing that. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's millionaires and billionaires. And the working class people want to enjoy the game of baseball, and they got to make that happen. I'm glad they finally did.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there in terms of players standing up. And, there's a lot of people on Twitter, or at least, within the last few weeks of these negotiations and stuff like that, saying, oh, it's all the owner's fault. And listen, look, I mean, in the beginning, I was all for, let's rub this on the owners, right? But then I started realizing, look, negotiation is about giving up some things, right? Compromising, trying to get to the center. And in terms of that one thing that happened, I think it was last Tuesday, not this past Tuesday, but last Tuesday. And then they, where they talked till 2 a.m, Eastern Standard Time, of course. And then they, just broke it up. Things that weren't going the way they wanted. And, especially, and I obviously do a podcast for a network, MLB News TV. There's a guy named Pete. He kind of heads it. And he's got some sources. I'll leave it at that. I know the name specifically, but he knows that
Who's
a
the sources?
Huh?
Who is it?
A name.
Say his name.
I trust me, Sox. Oh God damn it, my camera. I wouldn't bullshit you with the audience for anything. But But in terms of what the source said, a retired MLB beat reporter, he said that there was a leadership problem. Now, obviously, a lot of people disputed this. Oh, there's not a leadership problem with the MLBPA. What are you talking about? And I feel like it really showed today because you had the 8-0, really the union executive board, which is made up of Jason Castro from the Astros, Garrett Cole, we know who he plays for, Francisco Lindor, Max Scherzer, all these other guys, specifically from the Angels, I think the Cardinals also voted against it. I don't know too much of specifics. Andrew Miller was one of the guys, and it really showed because though they were all Boris clients. We know who Scott Boris is. We know his clients command the most money, and you know in my opinion, in terms of recognizing the deals, and obviously I'm not a baseball player, so I don't fully understand the picture. But as I started recognizing, okay, so they're getting closer and closer, but it just feels like the MLB is being a little more, the PA, is being a little more greedier in terms of that aspect. So why don't they just close it in? I think personally, I thought it was bad for PR, in their respect, if they were to say, okay, let's accept a deal from the owners. No, what really happened? Well, actually, they did that in the end, but it really showed today because after that 8-0 thing where they said, okay, we're not accepting this deal, the players, which was made up of 38 specific members, they voted for it. It was a 26-12 or something like that in total. And that just shows to me there's a little bit of divide there, but obviously baseball is back. We're happy about it, and there's going to be a lot of different things that are implemented in the sport. And thank God some of these rules are just gone, like the runner on second, and the 7-inning
Jeez.
doubleheaders.
Feels
I'm
like
glad
baseball
we're
again.
playing. I'm glad that we're playing 162. I didn't really get the fake deadlines, but I guess the fake deadlines were trying to pose a threat more for the MLBPA to try to cave in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess it was a good thing in the end. But in terms of they're possibly thinking of, okay, let's start making up not with just games and going into November with all this crap, but let's go into let's do double headers. And they announced, yeah, we're doing it 9 innings, not 7 innings. I thought that was horrible. And what I also thought was horrible was last year's spring training when they started implementing 5-inning spring training games and 7-inning spring training games. I
Mm-hmm.
hated that.
Yeah.
It was just terrible. But let's go into the list of rules that they started implementing. So this one takes effect this year, and I don't know that this affects the game too much. Um, I can understand for one specific reason why they would do it. I don't understand the full reason though. I'm half and half on it. It doesn't affect the game too much. How do you feel about larger bases by 3 inches?
I knew we were going to get into that one first, and by the way, you made a good point about the veteran players possibly not having leadership in the PA, because I saw not only a lot of people want to play ball, I saw a lot of players tweeting on out like, let's play. What is it going to take? Well, we want to play. Why is the PA still saying no? And the deadlines, the fake deadlines, whatever they are, I think those would have ended up being implemented eventually. Like, you can't just keep riding off games week by week by week. Eventually, we would have ended up having to have a shorter season. Luckily, it was only 2 weeks. They're able to do double headers. Are they going to do weekend double headers? I believe. I don't know too many of the details yet, but those games are going to get made up. 162 is awesome. And yeah, so larger bases by 3 inches. I really do think, and it's a game of inches. How many steals are down to the replay? I mean, it seems like almost every single one. Guys are going to steal bases more. I think there's going to be a lot more safe calls, and it might change the game more than we think, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely an incentivized offense, especially. And the problem, I'll speak on my team. Obviously, somebody gave your team the respect of they do this, and I want to make sure that's obviously the right comment. You were talking about stealing bases. The Yankees don't do that. Red Sox
And
do
not at
that.
all. That not as much. No, they're in the bottom half of the league.
But do you think now, with this new larger base thing, especially being implemented this year, do you think they would be the type of team to take advantage of it?
I don't know. I don't think the Yankees will. I don't think the Red Sox will either, to be honest with you. So that's a good point. What teams are actually going to go out there and make that a difference? But I don't know why teams don't steal more. It seems like guys are faster, or there's more faster guys now. So I think the small ball and the stealing bases should be implemented more.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I don't specifically know. I was told it was being implemented next year, and that's one of the things we'll talk about it, in
Okay.
a few minutes. Is banning the shift or altering the shift, and especially doing that, and then you add on the stealing bases. Obviously, it would be a better look for baseball. It would be better look in terms of offense for certain teams. But I just don't understand why certain teams wouldn't take advantage of the stealing bases. Like you think of teams like the Braves, who are very fundamentally sound in that aspect, they steal probably a lot of bases. The Blue Jays might, they have a young core. That's why I kind of typically think of that. The Rays, maybe, maybe not because of their
Mm-hmm.
high analytics and stuff like that. But
Right.
overall, it's just to cut it on larger bases doesn't really, it affects the game, but I think it affects it in a positive way. But it's not going to really affect me because it will affect me in a negative way because everybody's going to be stealing on Gary Sanchez more than they
Right.
did before.
Well,
So
I think Boone is, and we can talk about Boone all day, but I think he's got to be more aggressive on the bases. We talked about it that one time we did a collab together. Boone's got to be more aggressive, I believe, but I don't think it affects the game that much. If anything, you're right. It's for the good, but I don't think we need to be going and changing these little things about baseball. I don't. It's something weird about that to me.
yeah, and even just to interject there because you bring up a good point. Um, a couple of days ago, I was watching one of the network I'm a part of. I was watching one of their podcasts, and the main host basically said, "Okay, MLB is doing basically the wrong things here. They're trying to attack something that's not either not going to affect the game or it's just playing with the wrong things. They need to go after fan promotions and stuff like that, not catering to Gen Z in the case of shorter games. You really think a pitch clock is going to make somebody watch the game? It shortens the time and it would mess up a pitcher's rhythm." But they need to go after the younger fan base because we all know just baseball generally is a father-son sport. You may not like it, you may like it, whatever the case may be. You have the NBA All-Star game that was in Fortnite, a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Start incentivizing that through
No,
different
really,
games.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Start incentivizing that through different games and just different atmospheres overall. And then that's where you start to build, you make more money on a financial aspect, and then kids start getting more into the game. Sure, maybe it's not like 10, 20 years ago where, you're going to get kids automatically into the game, but you have to have that attraction somewhere. And I just feel that the MLB is just so missing because it's not and obviously once again there's parents out there that have their kids on their phones and stuff like that, but also if you think about it, and if the MLB were to do something like that, that would have more of an effect and more of a positive effect on a kid than it would an actual teenager, because we know typically teenagers, right, they sit on their phones at the games and stuff like that. They're not really interested. They're more for, hey, I was there for the experience, not
Right.
okay, I enjoyed the game and I have actually seen stuff before. So targeting that audience has more of a positive effect for the MLB. And it's just more of an effect overall because once again, yeah, maybe not someone has a dad or whatever the case may be, but if they go on their phones and they see, they play Fortnite mobile or they play some of these other games that kids play on their, phones and stuff like that, and they see Mike Trout and they see some of these other guys, they will obviously grow somewhat of an attachment, and then they'll ask their moms or ask their dads or ask their parents or whatever, take me to a baseball game,
Yeah.
and then that's where it's going to build. And I just think,
Other leagues are really good at that too. And besides, I don't think the NHL is really good. They got the ESPN thing going, but the NBA and NFL, it seems, are consumed a lot through social media. And the MLB is just it doesn't reach. It feels like it doesn't reach out to as much of an audience online. And there's a lot of people consuming sports online, and that's a good place to start. Like in kids' games, like NBA or NFL did Nickelodeon. I think they could at least try to put the feelers out there, try to get the younger audience, because I mean, these father and son duos, the dads are going to die off, and then what are we going to do?
yeah. And I just think that the MLB, in terms of the owners or whoever's trying to get that extra financial piece, I just don't think. I think they have a little bit of an older perspective on it, and that's not necessarily a good thing. They're not thinking in the new age of, oh well, kids are playing games on their phones nowadays. And they need to think like that. And sure, once again, maybe they wouldn't do it for their kid in terms of putting their kid on a phone and not dealing with them. Maybe that's their, par, parental philosophy. Maybe that's not their parental philosophy. But with that being said, that's still a way to kind of make money, get kids to the ballpark, and target that specific audience. So I think that's something that MLB is really missing in terms of targeting their audience and stuff like that.
I agree. That's a really good point. While you're in a lockout, and I think that's a good point that you made. Why are we targeting these things like making the bases 3 inches larger instead of maybe targeting getting a brand new millions of kids to be a fan of this great game that we have? So it seemed a little bit pointless, but I'm just glad we're past it, man. I really am.
Yeah. So the next one I brought up a little bit, and obviously there was some controversy, especially revolving around a Yankee player. One I typically don't like, but I kind of agree with him. How do you feel about the shift ban or altering the shift?
To be honest with you, I don't know if it's just me being stubborn or what it is, but I think they should be able to play wherever they want. I mean, I don't think there was ever a set rule that you can't shift players in baseball. And if guys don't want to hit into a ground ball every time, learn to hit the ball the other way. I've always had that mindset. Baseball has been the same from day one. You hit it where they're not, and I think it's that simple. I don't like any rules on the shift at all.
So I'm going to partly disagree with you, and obviously, once again, I'll give an explanation of why. Joey Gallo obviously came out.
Right.
One of our guys, Ozzie Guillen's son, Oni Guillen, actually ripped him on his podcast, which is a part of our network, basically saying, kind of really putting up the argument you put up, right? A very intelligent argument for that side, for that standpoint. And here's where I agree, but I disagree with Joey Gallo. I agree that sometimes, the shift can be really weird and that, you're not totally given an advantage. But at the same time, is Joey Gallo's, in my personal opinion, as a Yankees fan, watching half a year with him as a Yankee, is his problem really hitting against the shift? Or is it the fact that he hits home runs and doesn't do anything else? I think I'll take the second one as the actual answer. Now,
Right.
I did like the MLB's new implementation of putting in, rules on a 45-day notice in terms of agreements and stuff like that. I really like that because it gets stuff off the field, it gets stuff on the field for whatever year you want to put it in. And I felt that in a specific argument, I felt that what the Rays did with 4 different outfielders, I thought it was bullshit. I don't like that. That's me personally. Obviously, a lot of people have different preferences, the same preferences, whatever. I don't feel that you should be able to do that. 4 outfielders. You could shift however you want in the outfield. Play deep, play shallow, whatever the case may be. Shift to the right, shift to the left. There's no reason you should have 4 outfielders. I mean, that's just not normal. In terms of the 3 on the left side of the infield, the right side of the infield, I personally don't care about that as much. But if they're going to remove that, I don't have a problem with it. In terms of the offensive side of the game, it hypes up more of the offense. And obviously, that's a rule they agreed to. I don't think it's going to be put in until 2023. But in terms of that, that's going to be probably the whole hype up of baseball in terms of offense. Overall, though, kind of happy that they're probably going to take this 4 outfielder crap out. That's analytics based. That's not just, hey, let's just do this because we're a bunch of clowns. It's analytics based. And, in terms of what side of the infield, I didn't really care about that, but still keep the shifts like bunting, corners in, double play shifts. Those are the shifts I don't think people have problems with. But either way, I still think they should keep those shifts. Get rid of the 4 outfielders. I really didn't think that was necessary. Just my personal opinion.
I think that's a good point, especially coming from a Yankee fan that has players like Joey Gallo that just hit bombs and hit into the shift at all times. And that's a really good point. I think the 4 outfielders was very interesting. I was really amused by that, actually. And a lot of people did not like that at all. But you know what? I really truly think that if they want to throw 4 outfielders out there, I'm going to stick to what I think. And, we can bunt it down the line where they're missing their infielder. And I don't think extremely shifting into the right field with your outfielders would be much different than putting 4 outfielders out there. Either way, if he wants to hit it to the opposite field, it's going to be there. If he wants to bunt it, it makes the game more interesting instead of just putting these deadlines or rules and making it more controlled. I think it should be a free flowing game, and they should be able to do what they want with the ball.
So the next one is sort of, now this is apparently, and I didn't want this. I'm going to guess that you're in the same opinion. Now I haven't heard this anywhere else. I haven't seen any tweets about it. But with that being said, how do you feel about player ads on uniforms? Or just ads on uniforms like the NBA does it?
You know what? I'm sick of the advertisements, and I don't think they should be on the jerseys. There's plenty of advertising. We even saw them. There's CGIs on the walls now during TV broadcasts. I think there's plenty of advertisements out there, and players can go out and make their money outside of the field, outside of the ballpark. I don't see any reason for it.
Yeah, I'm just replying to this one person on Twitter who's
attacking me,
but that's
dude, go get them. No, really, I really do think that it's going to be a NASCAR thing eventually, where these guys are just going to load them up. You're not going to be able to see the logos anymore. It's how it's going to be.
Stadiums. I mean, they put enough advertisements in the stadiums, on the billboards and stuff like that. Put it on the dugouts, but I just don't. Maybe put it on the bats or something. That's where they should draw the line.
Because they can, they have enough good footage, 4K footage. You're going to see that logo swinging across the strike zone every time. That's a good point. Maybe on the baseballs even. Who knows? But
maybe on they do like the commemorations. Like I don't know if they did it for the 9/11 game last year. They did it in terms of like, okay, it's Derek Jeter Day or whatever day. They put it on the bases. Put it on the bases.
On the bases. That's a good point. No, you know what? It's I like a guy going out and making his money, because I'm assuming it would be personal advertisements, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a guy going out and getting his money, but you can do that in so many different ways nowadays. It takes away from the beauty of the game aesthetically too. We didn't really talk about that. I don't want to see a bunch of ads when I'm watching the baseball on TV. As right. They force them down in our commercials every single time anyways.
Yeah, you get enough ads there. This one it's going to be implemented in 2023. The pitch clock. Now, I think it's 14 seconds for runners on base and 19 seconds with nobody on base, or it's either or flipped. I think you shook your head there, and I'm going to agree with you on that one. Let me get your thoughts.
Baseball has always been, in my opinion, if you're born into it, either watching or playing, you're probably going to, you're going to end up loving it or you're going to hate it. But the ones that love it see it as a pure game. And you're not going to get usually somebody that's 25, 35 that wasn't into baseball before. You're not going to introduce them to the game and get them to be all in, watch every single game. It's a dedication that a lot of people are born into. And I go back to, it's just changing the game too much, and it's going to mess with pitchers. That leads to more offense. It's going to lead to more wild pitches. Guys are going to get flustered on the mound. It's a whole different game when you got a clock ticking behind you that you're going to get punished if you don't throw the ball by then.
I agree with you, just 100%. Obviously, in some cases, it leads to more offense. But once again, we talked about a few minutes ago how the MLB is attacking the wrong things. They tested out in the minor leagues, obviously. In the majors, I once again, it just goes to the narrative and just the overall standpoint of they're attacking the wrong things. Pitch
I agree.
I just
it's ridiculous. It pisses me off.
I don't think there's any reason for it. And when we were still in this lockout, how many days ago we were recording Twin Bill, which is my podcast with my brother on the NYY News Network. We were talking about the specific things they agreed on in terms of what could be used as a bargaining chip for the CBT, the minimums, and stuff like that. And I said, look, I will take larger bases. I will definitely take banning the shift or altering the shift. But I don't know that I'm going to take a pitch clock, because once again, it's speeding up the game. And what I truly feel in terms of what MLB was trying to do, target its audience and stuff like that. And there's a million things you could put up. For example, my friend's a big NASCAR fan. He was talking about the rules they implemented to kind of shorten the NASCAR races, the 3 stages, the
Really?
playoff system, a lot of the other stuff. And you look at the MLB, the pitch clock, what they did 2 years, the runner on second, all that other stuff, trying to make the game even shorter. They're targeting the wrong audience for the reason that they're not going to show up in full extent. You said it best. It's a commitment from when you start playing. Obviously, it could be a different story if they do what I said in terms of going after the kids in terms of these games and stuff like that. But targeting, an audience in the teenage years to possibly their mid 20s like this is not necessarily the right technique of financials because they will be sucked in, and then once their phone comes out, it's just not going to happen. So once
You know
again,
what?
it's going back to the wrong audience.
No, I agree. That's a good point because I think they have the excuse of we're trying to make the game, and not only baseball. You said NASCAR. They're trying to make it seems like everything just quicker and go by faster. But they're going to say they're going after the younger audience, but I think they're doing it in the wrong ways. Again, going back to what we keep repeating, they're going to say that this is trying to get the younger audience more involved because their attention spans are smaller nowadays. But you can still play to that level. You just have to go to the right audience. Like you said, the teenagers they're either in or they're out right now. You're not going to get a teenager to go pick a team and root for them, watch 162 games. It's not going to happen. You have to get those kids from when they start playing baseball. And like you said, when they go on their phone and see Mike Trout, it almost forces them. I hate to say it like that, but it almost forces them to become a baseball fan. And that's what they got to do. Other leagues are doing it.
Yeah. Joe says, I'm not opposed to it, but 14 and 19 seconds isn't enough. So is it? So I think I know the
You know
answer.
what? He's right. I agree.
Yeah, now I'm trying to now I got because I'm like, does he mean quicker? Or does he mean a little longer? Now I know that he means just a little bit longer. But there is that point that you could say in there for just the general baseball fan. Oh well, some pitchers take how many years on the mound, and one thing I kind of didn't like. I'm gonna adjust my camera while I'm doing this. One thing I didn't like how many years ago that they put this rule in is that they limited the mound visits. And they also went in there and did the 3 batter minimum. Like I kind of like now. I'm not a totally 100% fan of let's put a pitcher in for for 2 at bats and then bring him out and bring in another guy. But I kind of like that matchup. Oh well, I'm gonna do it for this guy, and then okay, he's not good against righties, so we're gonna bring a righty in for this specific situation. It sort of intensified it a little bit, at least in my opinion, going back a couple of years. Now it's the 3 batter minimum and all this stuff like that. Now all of that stuff beforehand, before that rule was implemented, I feel like it was based on gut, not analytics, not any of that stuff. But now when you look at specific matchups, it's more based on analytics. That's why you see guys, let's just say Gleyber Torres is on a 6-game winning streak. He will sit because Aaron Boone is so reliant on the analytics, and he will say, look, he doesn't have good matchups against this guy. Analytically, statistically, whatever the case may be, I don't give a shit. I don't ride the hot hand because I'm a fucking asshole. Let me go ahead and just sit him, which
No,
pisses me off.
yeah. He is so analytic ridden. If I was a fan of his team, I would be. You know what? At some point, you got to decide if your guy is better than him, and you got to go put him on the mound. You know what? I don't care what the analytics say. If it's 90% of the time, yeah. What about that other 10% though? What if he's feeling it today? What if that guy's having an off day? I feel like the statistical guys are never going to win, and if they do, it won't be long term. And this is kind of off track, but I don't think that when you're playing MLB The Show or you're playing Madden, everybody's a 99 every single day. But these guys have off days. They're humans. They wake up, they feel sick, they're weak, they're sore, and analytics driven coaches and staffs, to me, feel like they don't see that and they don't feel that as much. They tend to be players. They call themselves player coaches, but it doesn't seem that way. It's not about the statistics. It's about, can my guy go beat that guy?
Yeah. I think we should. Now, I wasn't planning on this. Obviously, we could get to it later on. We're talking about individual teams. I kind of now that you're trying to bring it up, and I kind of thought of it. We could talk about analytics and how it's taken over the game in terms of managers, stuff like that. Because I think that would definitely be a good discussion. Obviously, especially me being a Yankees fan. But I do have an update in terms of Twitter. John Morosi says that the Dodgers' interest in Freddie Freeman is definitely sincere based on what he's heard from sources tonight. But the Braves and the Yankees are obviously prominent in the Freeman marketplace. So it's.
Do you think they let him go though? I don't think they let him go after winning World Series.
My friend who is a Yankees fan, he feels that he's going to go back to Atlanta. And I originally thought that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, before the lockout, they sent him an offer and then he declined it because it wasn't enough. And he's looking for a big payday. Now, the thing is with that, and obviously it'll be a little more detail when we go into our teams a little later on, is that, okay, Freeman's going to cost, and yeah, sure, the Yankees get him. But how's that type of guy where it's just going to be one splash and then the rest of the roster remains just unbalanced and stuff like that? That's the problem I have with him. It's very cheap. So, that's the way it is in that one. This one, it has been accepted, obviously, and it's going to be implemented this year. And it seems like a lot of baseball fans, probably 99.9%, are accepting it. So, in that case, what do you think of the universal DH?
I like it. I when I was growing up, I liked the fact that you go to an AL ballpark and you have a DH, and you go to an NL ballpark and you force your pitchers to hit, but it's technically a different game in a different ballpark depending on which division which league you're playing in. So now I'm okay with it. You know what? I don't think pitchers should be batting anyways. It takes away from your Shohei Ohtani being able to be in the 9 spot. If they go play an NL team, he can hit. It takes away from things like that. But then you have your Madison Bumgarners and pitchers that can hit. They're upset about it in the National League. But you know what? I like the DH, and coming from a team that had the greatest DH of all time, I'm all right with it.
In terms of the universal DH for me, at first I was like, I kind of liked seeing pitchers hit. But then I realized the side of it, okay, well, pitchers get injured that way, and there's a lot of other things. And I think it would be a little more even, more offensive for the game in terms of the National League, mostly because they're enduring the DH for the first time in history this coming year. Well, not for the first time, because that was also in 2020 with the 2020 COVID season, Mickey Mouse season, whatever you want to call it. But I think there's definitely going to be a huge market for DHs and maybe players that weren't great defensively. Like Nelson Cruz, he does not play the outfield anymore. He's specifically a DH. Played with the Twins and the Rays last year, and then the Brewers are interested in him. So that's a team that, obviously implementation of the DH. And there's a lot of other different scenarios you can make up. And
that dude can hit.
What?
That dude can hit to this day, even past. He's going to hit probably for a few more. Oh, my God. That dude can hit.
He needs to win a chip.
Yeah, he deserves a chip, man. I've always been a big fan of him.
Yeah. And then, you can also make your cases, and, obviously I'll relate to the Yankees a lot in this case. But Gary Sanchez, I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of him as a hitter. I mean, a lot of people are. I'm not a fan of him as a hitter. I'm not a fan of him as a player. Yeah. But he could have a real opportunity for two things: a change of scenery, because the pressure won't be on him. And at the same time, in the National League, he will only have to hit. He won't have to catch in major situations. He could be turned into a DH like Ortiz and like some of these other guys that have transitioned from, some positions, and then they just go to DH. Luke Voit can be another candidate in terms of that. I know the Brewers had interest before the lockout, and there was rumors there, and the Yankees still want to trade him. One of my friends wants to keep Voit for the DH, but the problem with that is Stanton's the DH, but, they don't play him in the outfield. And I would like them to play him in the outfield because his stats are better. And overall, there was one game last year where I specifically got red hot about it. And so did the rest of my panel. It was July 31st or July 30th or something. They were playing the Marlins, and obviously the rule was not, in there yet. So he was playing right field, and Greg Allen went in for him after 6 innings. I'm like, dude, why did you trade for him if you're worried about injuries? And it's also July, so why can't he play the field? It's either play him at DH the whole season, don't give him any outfield reps, or just go out there and say, hey, listen, we're gonna play you a full 9 innings when we, get you out there. And you literally could have made that an outfield, which is one of the reasons that I was pissed off, because the day before, it was a couple hours before that specific game, Aaron Boone comes out and says, we are going to make Brett Gardner the center fielder. At this time, Aaron Hicks was not, he was not there. He was out for the season, right? You literally could have made it at least a decent outfield, an awesome outfield in terms of defense in a way. Joey Gallo in left field, Aaron Judge in right field. Actually, no, let me put it this way, because Joey Gallo has range and he doesn't have as much injury history as the two counterparts. Stanton in left field, Joey Gallo in center field. He has range, and then right field, Aaron Judge. But they didn't do that, and they went through a ton of transitions with the outfield because of injuries and stuff like that, like Ryan Lamar. He was, he played last year, and a lot of the other guys as well, but it just made me mad because you're not putting standing outfield. We're going to have to watch Brett Gardner again. And supposedly, and now I'm not going to say this is a true source or anything, but Michael Kay has an actual feeling that Brett Gardner is coming back to the Yankees again.
Okay.
And I'm not happy about that because that ship has to sail at one point.
That ship has got to sail at some point. It had to sail. It already had to sail. That's a good point. They have a lot of talent on that team. They have a lot of individual talent. Voit, I like him a lot. He can hit the ball really well. And that outfield situation is interesting. I never knew that Gallo had that much range. Can he play center?
He can play center. He doesn't want to play center, but at the same time, even though I don't like Joey Gallo already, dude, you have range. You probably have the best speed in the outfield. If you're going to help your team and put your team first, you play in center field.
Yeah.
But once again, with the Yankees, the way they play scared, they play also very conservative, like they're 10 games up in the division already. They don't put him anywhere else. They just put him in left field, and that's pretty much it. They're very stingy about that certain stuff.
It's interesting where Boone gets his stuff, like to pull Stanton after 6. Like, who's telling him to do that? Because it's not just him. There's no way it's just him.
Definitely. And, that was one of the bigger discussions, especially after that Red Sox game where we lost, we got eliminated. And then obviously there was that discussion, is Boone coming back? Is Boone not coming back? And people saying, well, Boone's not the problem. It's Cashman. How about get rid of them both? Because, there's a couple of things there. By not and I understand the way of baseball has certainly changed with the analytics and the managers. Let's be honest. Obviously, the New York Giants, the San Francisco Giants, their manager was Gabe Kapler. And they had one good season last year, right? They had a couple of different players, Mike Yastrzemski, Logan Webb, one of the pitchers on the staff. They had a couple other guys as well. How is it that he had a one-year wonder in San Francisco, but in Philly he sucked? That doesn't make much sense to me. I don't believe he's changed his philosophy. I think that's all analytics. I think he's a puppet. A lot of people say that as well. So with Boone, and it's a shame because he could stand up for himself because he does have an accomplished background as part of the Boone family. Brett Boone, Bob Boone, some of the other Boones that are in his family. He has an established baseball background. I feel like he could maybe not be a good manager if he wasn't an analytic background organization. But the problem is, once again, he's being puppeted by Cashman. And I also felt just either way, whether it's the analytics, not the analytics, whatever the case may be, is that I feel that if he was going to be a manager, I don't think New York should have been his first stop because the pressure is already on and he's feeling it. But the problem is, in just my personal opinion, I don't think the beat reporters ask him the toughest questions. From my recollection, he's been asked one tough question. Is your team ready, used to losing? And he said, no, get the hell out of here with that. That's the only time I've heard him get mad in the press conference because everybody throws cupcakes at him.
They need to grill him because it's been a long time since 2009 was a long time ago, and it was already, the pressure was already on him when he got in there after Girardi. But I agree. I don't know if New York was the greatest first spot for him. He's got the big home run to left as a Yankee, so they wanted to bring him back, all this nostalgia. But I agree. I think he's a big puppet for Cashman, and they should both go. I've said that for a while now. They should both go. They're not going to win until they do. Like you said, he's a puppet. There's other puppets out there that are just statistic driven. We talked about this earlier tonight already. In our case, in Boston's case, I feel like they give Alex Cora full reign. They say, get your guys in order. Who do you want to give you your statistics or your health or whatever it is? You're in control. You run this baseball team. And it feels like that's not the case in other places.
Yeah. The next one, and I find it interesting. I feel like it won't affect our teams because our teams have been typically good. They're not small market teams. The 6-team draft lottery. At first, I kind of opposed this because I'm like, okay, that's not really an MLB type of thing. Because it's not like the NFL or the NBA or the NHL where these players, they just have an immediate impact. The MLB, it takes years and years and years. Obviously, with the cutting of minor league teams, which is something I'm still not happy about, with the cutting of minor league teams, they've tried to shorten the gap between first getting drafted, then trying to make your debut in the MLB. It's still not an immediate impact. So I don't understand as to why the draft lottery was put in. And there's literally so many components that go into that because I believe one of the reasons to do that was to try to phase tanking out. And you realize a lot of these teams in the MLB, you could argue about different situations, and I'll bring that up in a second. The Royals, they're not competitive every year. The Pirates, they are at the bottom of the MLB. Probably actually lower than them is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think he was your bench coach at one point, Torey Lovullo, right?
Yeah, Torey Lovullo, yeah.
Torey Lovullo. I can't say his name correct, but he doesn't manage a good team, so I don't know if he gets that sort of traction from me. But the Diamondbacks are horrible. The Rockies don't know where to go. They don't know whether to sign Story back or whether to do anything else. I know they were interested in Chris Bryant, which once again makes sense. So there's that. But also there's that side of, okay, you have two different sides of this. The cheap owners, which the owners is definitely cheap. I mean, we could sit here and have a
so cheap. They're so fucking cheap.
Yeah. But the problem is with that is there was no salary caps. The players didn't want a salary cap in 94, which was one of the biggest reasons to cause that lockout. And now we're dealing with these 14-year contracts, these $350 million contracts in total. And, a lot of it's guaranteed, stuff like that. And specifically, you want an example? Juan Soto just turned down a deal from the Nationals for 13 years or 10 years and $350 million.
That's ridiculous. Turned it down. That is ridiculous. Can you imagine, even 5 or 6 years ago, can you imagine anyone turning that kind of deal down or even getting offered that kind of deal?
Right. And once again, another problem where you could say the salary cap really doesn't help in a situation like that. Why not impose a salary floor? But the problem is, in my personal opinion, and once again, I've been pretty even on this, when we're talking about the MLB and the MLBPA in terms of this lockout that we just had, is that the salary floor would have never been accepted by the MLB. That would have never been accepted by the owners because they would have to have a minimum of what they can spend. And they were literally, with this new tax tier, they were trying to, stop certain owners from spending like Steinbrenner did in 2009. But we already know there's one owner out there, Steve Cohen, who will say, you know what, fuck the tiers, fuck all the taxes. I'm going out and getting players for my team, which obviously for the Mets, it hasn't worked out yet. Obviously,
it will though.
Good players.
It will.
Yeah. If they have a good manager in Buck, they probably have a good coaching staff. I have to take a look at the coaching staff in specific, but he's not afraid. He's not afraid of taxes because he is a fan of the team. He wants to go out there and sign. But in terms of this draft lottery, I don't understand the full, part of it. But the thing is, I don't think it's going to impact either of our teams because whatever expectations our teams have, the Yankees, they're doing this year. Like they're on the second or fourth best odds to win the World Series. I don't believe that in a long shot. I don't think they're the second best in the division. Personally, that's just my opinion. But I don't think it's going to impact our teams in terms of a draft lottery.
No, I agree. And you made a good point about they're at least they're saying that this might stop tanking or at least tanking out for the very bottom of the barrel that are losing the Detroits, the Baltimores that are every year down there. There's tanking in all sports, even when the NBA that has a draft lottery. There's teams at the bottom of the league every single year that are not winning on purpose. There will always be tanking. I don't think there's any way to stop it. And the draft lottery, it might be more exciting to put on a big show, and I think that's part of it, to maybe have one night where it's the draft lottery. I think that's a good part of publicism, but that's about it. I think that it's a big public thing.
Agreed. So let me ask your thoughts on this. And obviously, I like the old format, but both sides wanted this, but one side wanted more teams. Expanded postseason to 12 teams. We all know now, I forget how many teams specifically it was in 2020. That's where they kind of, tested all these rules. I don't think the Yankees would have made the playoffs. It was a regular postseason format. So it goes from, I think, 10 to 12, which is one more team. And that's basically what, two per division specifically. We all
Mhm.
know, is anyone really besides the White Sox from the Central getting in? Probably not.
Right.
In terms of the West, and I'm speaking American League specifically, the Astros, the Mariners are trying to spend some money this offseason.
Oakland.
Those are some teams that might, try to sneak into the playoffs. The top three teams, and to be honest with you, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be very negative here. I think consider the Yankees a third, fourth place team. So the Red Sox might, obviously will compete for a spot. The Blue Jays, the Rays. So it's going to be very interesting. But there was at a time where they were saying, okay, let's do a 14 team, where one side, the owners said, let's not do a ghost win, which is basically putting one win for whatever team and then having a 2-game set, which was complete bullshit, by the way. I feel that was complete bullshit. And Max Scherzer is actually the one who proposed that, which I don't know
Yeah.
why. Would
Yeah.
totally benefit the higher seed in that scenario. And also, there was that one proposal, I think it was the owners, where it was basically a gimmick. And it said, oh, well, the higher seeds with the buys can get to choose their opponents. Like, this is not WWE. But in terms of a
No.
12-team postseason, how do you think will affect baseball just in general?
I think it'll bring more eyes to the game, especially when postseason comes around. So many eyes turn to baseball once October comes. Excuse me, September and October. But it feels like it's the other leagues that are all influencing this, because it's the NBA that comes in with 10 teams from each conference going to the playoffs, which it feels like they're handing out playoff spots at this point. And that's what I'm a little bit worried about the MLB. I like that you have to really, really earn your spot, especially with those wild card games. It's going to be more exciting. I think there's a lot of money to be made. That's the main reason that this is going into place. But the influence from other leagues is probably the biggest part, because the MLB feels like they're falling behind in that aspect. Adding more games brings more revenue, and I think it's a good move for them. Big picture, I think it's a good move, but I do like the fact that you have to work your way into the playoffs, and really it's a higher pedestal when there's less teams in there. You know what I mean? But for those teams that are on the edge every time, Seattle, you mentioned, Oakland is always there. They just can't, you know, other teams in it'll give them a chance to squeak in there, and then who knows? All it takes is one good day, and you're past the wild card round. So it'll be exciting. We're probably going to see new teams that we've never seen before go farther than we expected.
Yeah, and I think any sane person on another side would have seen. Now, obviously, it's all money reasons, as you brought up. I think any sane person, in terms of just ratings and stuff like that, would have seen what happened in the NFL this year. The Steelers got their ass kicked by the Chiefs, and the Eagles got their ass kicked by the Buccaneers. So there's that. But obviously, we're
Mhm.
down to 12 teams in the postseason, which is obviously better than 14 in terms of just watching it overall. Um, so just some overall thoughts. We grouped this up real quick, just a general discussion. The player minimum salary is set at 700K and will go to 780K, and I think a 5-year span. That's probably the CBA longevity. The salary threshold is at $230 million. Obviously, there's the different tiers for the taxes, and I kind of want to get your thoughts a lot on this as well. I don't know that I have totally the biggest view on it. Obviously, they have until July 25th to negotiate on this. They have until July 25th to negotiate, on the terms of an international draft. And if they don't, and they don't get anything done, qualifying offer and draft pick compensation comes back. So I want to get your thoughts on the possibility of an international draft.
It's interesting, and it goes back to I knew we would talk about this because they tried to squeak it in there right before we got the deal done. Right, this was already in talks before we got baseball back. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so it goes back to what we were saying before about attacking the wrong things because they're talking about opening a new. If they can't get this international thing figured out, there's a lot of international talent, and I think it's important to try and bring as much talent around and as many people around the world into our game as possible. It puts more eyes on us. When we have players from other countries, the whole entire country watches when they're in the playoffs and in the World Series. They're getting support from millions of people in their home country. The MLB is talking about opening a new CBA in a few years. I hope they don't. But I think they're going after the wrong things. Like before we even had baseball back this season, they were talking about the international draft, which hasn't been an issue in my eyes. But why bring that up right now? That's my question. Why would we try to stuff that into this whole entire lockout at the very end? It doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you there. Obviously, guys, throughout this entire stream, we'll be taking questions. We'll be checking, or at least I will be checking Twitter for updates and stuff like that. All I heard was that Freeman stuff. So it looks like it's going to be mostly during the weekend for all of the stuff in terms of free agency rumors, stuff like that. So kind of want to get in something else now. Basically, in this section, give a recap of your team. I'll let you go first. Did they impress? Did they exceed expectations? What were your expectations for them last year? And I'll just start with that.
Oh wow! You know what? Last year was they blew us away. We did not even expect, at least in my opinion, to make the playoffs last year. We knew the bullpen was really lacking going into last year. We knew the Chris Sale wasn't healthy. We weren't going to get him till late in the year. Nathan Eovaldi was a great starter for us. He pushed us in the World Series in 2018. He had that great outing in the World Series where he went, I believe, 8 innings and extra innings, almost pitched a complete game. He's one of our backbones on the mound. But it's the same thing as this year. The bullpen is lacking. The Red Sox are looking to add arms, but it seems like in this AL East with Toronto mashing the ball, the Rays just beating the crap out of the ball, and the Yankees, who are hot and cold, it's tough. And last year was unbelievable. We got a lot of big outings from Nathan Eovaldi. Chris Sale came back, gave us some juice. Eduardo Rodriguez, on and off. You know what I mean? We don't have that stud that's at the top of the lineup. In a perfect world, it would be Chris Sale dominating every 5th day. It would be Nathan Eovaldi coming and throwing gas the next day. It'd be Eduardo Rodriguez with his changeup. But it was just injury here, guys getting hot and cold. But the offense is what really pushed us through last season with Kike Hernandez, to me, an MVP-like end of the season and postseason. Just unbelievable. This guy is such a stud. And then with Devers learning how to hit the high fastball, and Verdugo, just the support we got from Dahlbeck out there, pushed us to almost a World Series. We were within a game and a half against the Astros of winning going to the World Series. In a season that we didn't even expect to be there, I was more than happy. I think the Red Sox have a lot to look forward to this season as far as offensively, but that back end of the bullpen, we just signed Michael Wacha. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Definitely looking to sign some more arms in free agency, but last year was fun.
Can't say the same for myself, obviously, because Yankees underachieved. Obviously, the Red Sox fans were not really looking for high expectations because just fired Ron Redecky, got Alex quarterback, and obviously they did this stuff. Not good question from Joe here. By the way, I also went to high school with Joe. Great supporter. So I think, I saw his sister say at the supermarket. Anyway, just a fun fact. Who do you think the first free agent off the board will be? I'm gonna let you answer this first.
Oh, um, I'm not sure about that. That's a good question. Well, I think it might be Freeman, and it's going to be back to Atlanta. I think they're going to lock him up. I don't know about any big splash moves. To be honest with you, I'm only sticking in the AL East with my feelers out right now. I didn't even know if we were going to have a season as of hours ago. So it'll be Freeman back to Atlanta. What do you think?
I think Freeman. I think Freeman. I'm just gonna give a little preview for this, because we'll get into team needs and all that stuff. I know you were talking about the bullpen and whatever. We'll get into that. In terms of my favorite free agent. Now, I flipped the script on Correa because originally I didn't want him. Like, he's cheater, stuff like that. But then I started buying in. Look, okay, obviously there's different moves being made where people are forgetting controversy, right? You guys rehired Alex Cora. AJ Hinch went to the Tigers. Hell, we fucking hired Carlos Beltran as the Yes Network.
Jeez.
So he was a part of that scandal. So I said, you know what? Listen, if it's going to make our team better, if it's going to be a part of if we're going to be a team that's actually going to compete in the playoffs in October, listen, I'm all for it. We have to just get over this. And it just can't be just Correa. But overall, the scope, my top free agent right now is Freddie Freeman. I just now, obviously, he comes with a price tag. He's 30 some odd years old. He's been playing in the league for many, many years now. My thing with him is two things. Very good ball player. He's coming off of a World Series ring, and he's a leader. The Yankees, as many fans will admit, some fans won't admit it. I don't think the Yankees have a prominent leader. Judge tries to be, a leader, and he sometimes succeeds. But the problem is, you have these bullshit errors on the field that the manager isn't cleaning up, and that's not just the manager's fault because Aaron Boone is an idiot. It's the front office because they don't let anyone ridicule the players. The players walk around free. By signing Carlos Correa, Gleyber Torres, if he was kept, now we don't know if he's going to be traded for, Matt Olson or some of these other guys. I would personally also like to trade him maybe if their infield isn't stacked. So, well, now they're called the Guardians for Jose Ramirez because I happen to like Jose Ramirez. I happen to like his stats. Um, but Correa would kick Gary Sanchez's ass. Correa would kick Gleyber Torres' ass because they go on the field like, okay, I'm here for another game, and they get by because their manager is an incompetent moron, and he does not ridicule the players. Carlos Correa wouldn't let that happen. Anthony Rizzo, I think, in a couple of
No, you're
different
right.
scenarios, didn't let that happen. And Freddie Freeman wouldn't let that happen. So it's not just, oh, well, we need an upgrade at first base. We definitely need an upgrade at first base. I'm all for that. That's one of the top needs of the New York Yankees, within the next 7 days, because that's when the signings are going to be. With that being said, it's not just that. It's just the fact that also as well, we need a leader. Our manager isn't a leader. And overall, why I'm not a guy that says, oh, go with Volpe or go with Peraza or go with, some of these other guys or go with Florial in center field is because the fact that we don't have a manager really doesn't help. Because with Alex Cora, I'm going to ask you, personally, before last year, I didn't hear the name Bobby Dahlbeck. Give me a little bit of background on him. And is Alex Cora, and I'm going to say this in my personal opinion from an outsider standpoint, is he the guy that lifts up talent that's not necessarily the best?
I would agree with that. I think they give Cora maybe talent that's not necessarily the best, and he's good at turning it around. We saw Dahlbeck a couple, well, 3 years, 4 years ago now. He got drafted 3 or 4 years ago. He is a offensive guy, plays first base. He's attentive on offense. He knows how to hit the fastball. He was really struggling with the off speed stuff when he first came up. Now, 2 years ago in spring training, he went off. I think he had 13 home runs in spring training, which nobody on the Red Sox did at that point. And I started becoming a big fan of his. Now, I'm to the point where I want Dahlbeck to be our starting first baseman for the Boston Red Sox, which is unbelievable to me. But you know what? Cora, like I said, I think they give him full control. Like we talked about earlier, they don't care what he has to do to make these guys good. Cora's been there and done that with hitting coaches and things like that. He's very smart. He knows what to get out of his guys and how to get the best out of his guys. Um, Dahlbeck's going to be our starting first baseman in my eyes, and he's got a long way to go. The guys have figured him out a little bit. He needs to hit the high fastball now. Devers and him both strike out unbelievably high rates on that high fastball. Guys are figuring him out a lot, but we don't have any words with Dahlbeck. I know a lot of guys didn't hear about him before, but he's come onto the scene now, made a couple big time hits last year in clutch moments. So remember the name. He's going to be around a while, I think.
Shout out to Jets mess. He popped in last night for Boys in the Big Apple stream with Jeremy, NFL Chaos with Jeremy, Bobby Skinner, and Football Grumps. So obviously, guys, go check that out. But just overall, obviously, once again, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Sox's stuff is in the description, so subscribe to his channel if you haven't. This is going to be a rotating thing. Next week, we won't have it. I'll be in Beantown, actually, so it's not like I can agree with Red Sox fans on anything anymore.
Let's go.
Because my friend brought up, well, you're going to be in Beantown, you're going to be in Boston. Nobody's going to like you, but hey, both of y'all will want baseball back. And then this deal happened, so I'm like, okay, well, I got nothing else to agree with Red Sox fans on, except for the fact that they hate the Blue Jays, hate the Orioles, and hate the Rays, right?
And baseball's back, and we're happy about that. That's all I care about.
That's another thing we agree on. Do you think a stopgap shortstop is a real possibility for the Yanks? Unfortunately so. Because now listen, I've seen Volpe in person. Personality-wise, I have some comments. I'm not gonna say it because it's not like I'm throwing shade at anybody or whatever. Just personally, I think he needs to. And I listen. I have never had a full conversation with him. Pete Simonetti has, who is my boss at NY News TV. I just think he'll need to get used to the fact a little more that he's going to be very popular, right? Because there's going to be fans coming up to him. And he signed my baseball. I'm very, very obviously happy about that. One of the other Yankee prospects, Randy Vasquez, I went to go see the Renegades in person against the Cyclones, the Mets minor league team, back in August. Both of them signed my baseball. Once again, grateful for that. But in terms of Volpe, he's a great hitter. But in terms of personality, I feel like he's going to be a little more the Derek Jeter type, where he's going to be out of where he doesn't really want to be. He's kind of an introvert, but not towards the players, just towards the fans, just like popular player. That's just my personal thoughts on him. Listen, I've never had a full conversation with the guy, so I can't say, but this is a first reaction. Going back to the shortstop conversation, though, they do value Volpe a lot, and they do value Oswaldo Peraza a lot. They don't want to give up a lot of names in their system. And they have a shit ton of shortstop prospects. Trey Sweeney, who they drafted last year, the year before, he's another good prospect. Oswaldo Cabrera, he's another prospect in the system, I think, can play shortstop. So you have a shit ton of shortstop names. The problem is that they don't want to give up those names because they are being real here, they are relying on potential rather than proven. And with the Yankees, they're not looking realistically in terms of fan base and what they have built as a mantra. They don't want to really, we're going to go into a rebuild. No, the mantra for the Yankees is go sign free agents, develop guys in your system, but at the same time, you need to start winning. And with a manager who is not really having the feel of the game and who's being controlled by the front office, you need the most talent as possible. Proven talent, that is. Not talent that's, it's just coming up through the system. And there are guys that have, flashed under Boone and, not specifically because of him, but specifically in terms of because they're talents, like Luis Gil. One of the biggest pet peeves I had last year's, he pitched 13 scoreless innings, I believe it was. They sent him back.
He was good. I liked him a lot. I don't know why they sent him down.
I don't know. I forget why they sent him down. They sent him down because I think somebody came off the IL or whatever the fuck it's called. They sent him down. I think somebody came off the IL, whatever the case may be. And then they brung him back up and he lost a little bit of control. Yeah. And then we all know this game, ALDS Game 2, 2020, where they pulled Garcia after one inning. I mean, that just didn't make any sense. Now, obviously, Garcia did have some issues in terms of control, but that just ruins a rookie's confidence. And that's a problem with bullpen reliant I say bullpen reliant really franchises teams just overall in the 21st century, in this century of baseball, in this era of baseball. And that's kind of where I could actually lead into my preview here. Well, not my preview, but kind of my recap of the Yankees. So obviously there were some expectations coming in to the 2021 season. They were relying on Mike Talkman and Mike Ford and Brett Gardner to be really good role players, and they didn't fit that. Brett Gardner was being forced to play center field and left field and all different positions in the outfield, and he's not an everyday player anymore. Obviously, I mentioned, the beginning of the podcast when I had that rant about Stanton not playing every day, and they said Gardner's going to be the center fielder. Why Gardner be the center fielder? Gallo was range and speed. But there's that. Talkman was a role player. He was a one-year wonder. And they, 2020, he didn't have a good season. 2021, they said, nah, we're not going to sign up, Brantley or Schwarber or whoever whoever's out there. We're going to go stick with Mike Talkman again. Didn't work. They traded him a few weeks into the season. Then you also have Mike Ford, who they later traded to the Rays later on. I think he actually went to the Nationals after that. So that's how they went in the season. And then they signed and traded for two guys on the specifics. They traded for Tyon, which really wasn't bad. I feel like Tyon was a good pitcher. Sometimes the offense just hated him, but sometimes he had some really bad outings. So I felt like he did well. Corey Kluber was not worth it. Yes, he obviously had the no-hitter in Texas, and I remember watching that game. But with that being said, he was injured for the last part of the year and just really wasn't a vital piece. And sure, yeah, he was only getting what, $2 million, the opt-out and stuff like that. I don't know what else was part of his contract, but it just wasn't worth it. Where you have some of this, where I could say, listen, I'm for the young guys coming up in the system in terms of the bullpen and stuff like that. And the first part of the year, I'll answer your question in a second, Joe, because that's a very good question, by the way. The first part of the year, the Yankees relied heavily on their pitching. Heavily. How many times, Sox, as an outsider, did you hear Jordan Montgomery's not getting the run support?
Every 5 days.
Exactly. Jordan Montgomery was not getting run support. And one of the moves that pissed me off, and I didn't get it the most later on, trading for Rougned Odor. Then they DFA'd him, and then he was a big nothing burger. And one of the things that pissed me off in that wild card game is when they pinch hitted him for somebody else. I don't remember who it was. And he's a home run hitter. He's a power hitter when he decides he wants to hit. And it was, 3-0, 3-1 in the game? So what is a home run going to do for you? Once again, analytics, fundamental baseball lacks with the Yankees. So they traded for Odor and just throughout the season. And then you had Boone sometimes controlling the bullpen and just controlling the team like they were up 10 games in the division every single game they went into. They totally tanked that Tigers series, bringing in guys like Nick Nelson and Brooks Kriske, all these unproven guys for no such reason at all because they're playing a lower team. We got swept by the fucking Tigers. They
had to win one of those games, right?
What?
Winning one of those games would have helped going into it because it was Detroit then Boston, if I'm correct.
You might be correct. I remember that was May, June timeline. And obviously one of the first games was Chapman. He fucking blew it. He gave up a 2-run home run walk-off in the bottom of the 10th inning. And the next two games, they just fucking tanked. They tanked it. And then I'll skip a little bit ahead to the deadline. I'm saying for them to sell. I'm like, look, you have some guys you could ship off, Chad Green or Aroldis Chapman if you can, possibly ship them off to another team, whatever the case may be, right? So they go out and buy. At first, I did not like Clay Holmes in terms of acquiring him. Then I learned to like him. I think he's going to be a great setup guy for the bullpen. But I'll explain that in a little bit, obviously. They traded for Joey Gallo, gave up not the best prospects in their system. So it's not like, the Yankees had to give up everything in the world for Joey Gallo. They really didn't. Let's be honest. Glenn Otto was one of the guys, he was a potential guy in the system, but wasn't really going to be anything. He was waiting behind a long list of dudes in the system. So they gave a bunch of guys not really meaning much. I think the best prospect they gave up was number 9. Then they traded for Joey Gallo. Obviously, I don't like that to this day. I didn't like the move, and I'm going to be honest, still standing on that. And then they traded in that trade for Julio Rodriguez. So I'm like, dude, this guy's 1-3 with like a 5.42 ERA. Then he actually gets his magic done by Matt Blake, who I have to admit did a pretty good job last year with the pitching staff. So he ended up being something. Pirates need Trevor Bauer. I think they need more than Trevor Bauer. Let's be honest there. They need more than Trevor Bauer.
They need an owner that wants to try and win ball games.
Yeah. And it's a damn shame though, because PNC Park it's a PNC Park. Yeah, because PNC Field is the Rail Riders Field, and that's in Scranton. That's one opposite end of Pittsburgh. But PNC Field, I think it's really beautiful as a ballpark.
No, yeah.
I would go there one day.
We got news. Dodgers, actually, no. Freddie Freeman, the interest from Freddie Freeman has been whittled down into the Braves or the Yankees. He will be choosing between those two teams. We need to keep Freddie Freeman as far away from the Yankees as possible.
I'm just gonna say this, and either way, I mean, it's not gonna be, in my personal opinion, as a negative guy and as a realistic guy, as a pessimistic guy, it's not gonna be a good ending either or. I've been to PNC Park. It's probably, I mean, listen, it's probably good. It's probably a good ballpark. Well, just from outside view, it's good. It seems like a nice ballpark with a nice view. I want to go there one day. But
people go to PNC Park to enjoy the park. They know the Pirates are going to lose every time they go there. Yeah. They go to see the river from the top of the stadium. They go to see the grass in center field, and then maybe the Pirates win, and maybe we can go have drinks afterwards.
Maybe if they play the Diamondbacks, maybe if they play the Diamondbacks, that's when they'll win.
They're so bad.
Sorry, Pirates fans, if there's any in the chat or whatever. But with Freddie Freeman, if we get him, it's going to be the only move, and then we're going to go with stopgaps and Aaron Hicks and run it back. Or you look at not doing Freddie Freeman, then you don't have an actual first baseman, because we all know Cashman's not giving up anything for Matt Olson. So you're going to go run it back with Voit. Pirates lost every year. They lose every year. I mean, that's pretty much that. I mean, I don't remember the last time they made the playoffs. I think it was like 2011, 2012.
That park was, I don't know if you remember that park when they played in the playoffs, that home game. Was it a wild card game that year?
I'm gonna take.
They had the towels going, man. I'm telling you, it was electric there. I've never seen anything like it. It looked like Heinz Field.
And of course, Google gives me the schedule. But the last time they did win a playoff game was against the Cincinnati Reds in the NL wild card.
Yeah, that was it, right?
Yeah, that was it. So there's two sides to that Freddie Freeman thing. But going back to the trade deadline, they traded Luis Cessa. Now, I didn't like Cessa beforehand, and obviously the Yankee fans are trying to, defend him. And so defend him in certain cases, like, oh, you guys didn't like Cessa, now you like him. But he was pitching really good. He was one of the best arms in our bullpen, and I don't think they overused him a ton, which was good. But they traded him. They traded him and Justin Wilson to the Reds for a player to be named later. It was a minor leaguer. Carson Cannon or some shit like that. I don't know. But that was pretty much a trade deadline. Also, Anthony Rizzo. I forget who they gave up for him, but they got Anthony Rizzo. That was probably one of the moves I did like. He was a little disappointing, but just to recap it overall, you go to, the rest of the months in terms of the Yankees. They disappointed. They tried. There was a lot of different things that could have happened. They obviously lost the Red Sox in the wild card round. They weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. I didn't predict them to make the playoffs. I thought they should have sold. And my friend kind of put it in a good perspective, and I think he actually did the math on this as well. If they wanted to be in a good playoff position, they would have had to win every single series after the All-Star break. We all know that didn't happen because they played down low to some teams, and I think one of the Mets series they did really badly, either was before or after the All-Star break when Chapman blew it. Just Aroldis Chapman is another guy that I want to get rid of. I mean, but
see, he would go somewhere else and absolutely dominate. It's just that type of situation. I see him going somewhere else and dominating.
And here's the thing as well. Like
Evan Ingram.
Yeah, Evan Ingram. Here's kind of the argument, and I'm going to actually take this into another thing as well because you bring up a good point. Aroldis Chapman has $18 million on the books this year in terms of his salary. I don't think anyone is trading for that. Now, here is where you could make a case for possibly a team that trades for that. I don't care what you get in return. I personally don't want Chapman on this team. I think, yes, he has his bright moments. Yes, he may have finished the season on a good note, but it's way too inconsistent. And when you have a team and a manager that plays up like 10 games in the division, you need as many consistent ball players as possible. So with Chapman, he's not consistent every year, especially during, the months. Okay, he's good this month, he's not good this month, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Trade him to a team that's trying to be competitive this year for the first time. The Reds, if he wasn't there already. Now, we obviously know he started with the Reds, but if let's just say he started with another team, the Reds would be an option. Maybe the Tigers, if they didn't have their guy, I forget what his name is, the closer now. There's a couple other teams that are trying to spend more that they could probably take on. And it's a small market. Maybe the Rangers, even though they're paying a shit ton of guys already. So there's a couple of different arguments there. Chad Green, very consistent, but also not too much of his fault because I feel like he gets overused all the time by Aaron Boone. And just overall, he's not a very consistent pitcher. That's where you could use Clay Holmes. As a middle relief pitcher, you get a couple of guys in there as well. Luis Heel, Clark Schmidt to his fullest extent. I feel like he could be a good relief pitcher. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what happens. But one of the biggest reasons, actually, I'm going to answer this question first, then I'll retort back to what I was saying in terms of change of scenery. What do you think Nestor's role will be this season? In my opinion, what his role should be, and I'll obviously be real about it in terms of what the Yankees will probably do, I think he should be a short-term starter because Jameson Tyon, recovering from surgery, probably won't be back till sometime in April, May, possibly, with a little bit of the delay in the season. But I feel like he should be a short-term starter, and then if they need bullpen guys for bullpen days, the shitty bullpen days they do, or they need just bullpen guys, long guys overall. If they trade Chad Green or whatever, they could use Nestor Cortez there, and I feel like it would be a good benefit there. I just don't think he's a long-term starter. Now, I believe they will use him as a long-term starter, and I'm scared because I feel like that's going to be a one-hit wonder scenario. Okay, he was good last year, did all the tricks with the legs and stuff like that. This year, I don't think it's going to be the same production. But in terms of a change of scenery, I think that's what the Yankees are afraid of. And I honestly don't understand why they're afraid of it. It just happens sometimes, especially with the New York media and more the fan base in the media, because we all know the media asks cupcake questions. They throw Boone cock shots at the press conferences. Gary Sanchez is one of those players that Brian Cashman is absolutely afraid to deal because he is afraid he will succeed somewhere else. If he trades him to the Brewers as a DH and he hits 240 over there, that's going to be considered a success as a DH in the National League. Now, obviously, they have interest in Nelson Cruz, so things will likely change. But with that being said, he is afraid of other players succeeding. Gleyber Torres, maybe he succeeds at another spot, with the A's or with another team that's looking to rebuild. Maybe the Rockies looking to take him on as a replacement for Trevor Story. There's a lot of guys that you can make the case for a change of scenery. The Yankees are scared to move on from them, but the problem is the Yankees do have some guys in their system, and they're not willing to make these moves where it's, okay, we could upgrade from these guys and not be scared of if they succeed somewhere else. They could have traded.
It's because that roster has talent. It's because all those guys they would go on and succeed elsewhere. It's because of the management that doesn't know how to put that product on the field night in and night out consistently, like pulling Giancarlo Stanton in the 6th inning. Like, these guys would go on and succeed elsewhere, and I don't blame them for being scared to deal them. Because they need to get that process out there that's going to consistently win. Maybe put some arms around these guys. You know what I mean? Like, Gleyber Torres would go on and hit the ball. Joey Gallo is going to go hit home runs. Giancarlo Stanton's going to hit balls. Aaron Judge is so talented. Like, it's more of a systematic thing in the way I see it. The more you talk, the more I can see it now. Is like, these guys are so good. They should be at the top of the AL East. They really should. All it takes is a couple arms. I mean, Garrett Cole, for God's sake, how many more talented guys do they need to succeed?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's a managerial problem. It's a system problem in terms of this analytics and, not disciplining the players. I think that's a big problem, especially with this team. But, obviously, once again, There's definitely that fear. All these guys, they succeed somewhere else, whatever. But if you're afraid of that, why not compensate that and get the guys? Like if Luke Voigt, you're afraid he's going to succeed in the National League, you train him to a National League team, whatever the case may be, right? Go out and get Freddie Freeman, sign Freddie Freeman. If you're afraid Gleyber Torres is going to succeed with another team, okay, give him up for Matt Olson and sign Carlos Correa. Do that. If you're afraid Gary Sanchez will succeed with the National League team as a designated hitter to hit 240, 235 each season, whatever they like. I mean, that's not personally my standards. My standards are a little bit higher, especially, in the Girardi era. And I hate pulling this up because I know, a lot of Yankee fans hate when they pull up the Girardi stuff, but he hit better under Girardi, hit 299, 286, 2016, 2017. He can do that. It's just he's not pushed to do that, and he's not pushing himself to do that. There's no discipline there, and that's why he's shitty defensively. He's not consistent offensively. But in terms of that, if you're afraid he's going to succeed somewhere else, trade him off, trade for someone like Jacob Stallings, and your defense will be fixed behind the plate, because it's not just, I don't know if you know this, Sox, but it's not just offense, and it's not really just the whole thing, oh, defense is bad, right? It's the fact that a lot of the pitchers on the staff and the Yes Network actually tweeted out a few hours ago, within the span of this whole free agency frenzy Hot Stove was on, they tweeted out, hey, Gary Sanchez come back for another season. So it looks like they're not going to deal him, because Yes Network is obviously owned by the Yankees. I am pissed at that. That's why I see the run it back mentality of, oh, we're going to put coaches around. We're really going to do the opposite of what Hal Steinbrenner said, because at the deadline last year, he blamed the players. And it didn't make much sense because Boone was incompetent. And they were literally considering Buck Showalter to step in and take the manager reins in August.
Yeah,
Which didn't make any
I
sense.
remember
But,
that.
hey, let's follow that up with, signing him to a 3-year extension with an option in the 4th year. But
don't you think Buck would come in and do good for the New York Yankees? I think Boone is right in Cashman's back pocket.
exactly.
Nothing's going to change.
Wouldn't take what Cashman probably was giving him. Now, obviously, back in Buck's managing days with the Yankees, it was Bob Watson, Gene Michaels. It was a whole different baseball spectrum. But in this new age of baseball, Cashman would not hire Showalter because Showalter would not be the puppet. Instead, some of these other guys across the league would be the puppet. But going back to, I forget what I was getting at. In terms, I was talking about Gary Sanchez. Damn, Pirates signed Jose Quintana. Ugh, he's been
really.
Wow. I mean, I maybe I heard that, maybe I didn't hear that, but
you know what else I was thinking? The Mariners need the Mariners are in the front runner for Chris Bryant right now. I think that might be a good fit.
They signed him to a $2 million contract November 29th. So that hasn't really been necessarily new, but yeah, they did sign Jose Quintana back a few days before the lockout. But let's see, I was going on my conversation about
Gary Sanchez.
Gary Sanchez, yeah. So basically, and let me ask this. On a real team with the, okay, now I remember what I was getting at. The problem is that a lot of these pitchers on the staff, like Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber towards the end of the year, I think Tyon or Montgomery towards the end of the year, they would not throw to Gary Sanchez because he is a lazy defensive catcher. So I don't understand where that intent, where they, how many times have we seen bad plays behind the plate and just overall, and this goes once again, obviously to the analytics and all that other stuff with, just player discipline.
It's that discipline. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. That one play at the plate against the Mets. How do you not bench him after that?
Right.
How do you not bench him after that? Gleyber Torres, a few days before the season ended, did not run out a ground ball.
I remember that.
In the press conference, what does he say? Well, feels bad about it. What does that do for anybody? What does that do for the team morale? It doesn't do anything. Oh, he feels bad.
He's soft. He's garbage. I'll beat the trash can until he's gone. There's nothing's going to change until he's gone. There's no discipline whatsoever. Baseball is a game of discipline. It's not like the NBA where you go roll the ball out on the floor and say go beat the guys go put up 130 points. It is a game of failure and discipline. You're going to strike out. You're going to get out. The best ball players in the world hit the ball 34% of the time, and there's no discipline from within. How do you expect to see it on the field when the lights are on? There's no chance. There's no chance.
Yeah. I'm going to connect something in just a minute to kind of that thing about the player discipline and stuff like that. Steven, I don't know if I've seen you in the chat before, but please, it looks like you're a Pirates fan. Please subscribe. We'll definitely be
What's
trying
up,
to
Steven?
get as much baseball talk, obviously, as possible. But guys, like, comment, subscribe, and do all that good stuff. He says that the Pirates should fire Derek Shelton, their manager. In his managerial career, he was hired in 2020. He has an 80-142 record. He was 19-41 in his first season. His second season, 61-101. So that is not a good record to have. Definitely, yeah. Connecting something, right? So why? And this is just a general opinion of mine. Connecting football to baseball and all that other stuff. Why was I thrilled with the first Joe Judge press conference? Why was I thrilled with at least the first part of the season? And I know we're going back on Giants here. He was just fired and all that stuff. But with that being said, why was I excited? Because he looked to be a disciplinarian, at least a strong one. With the Yankees going, I'm a Yankees fan. There was no discipline there. I was excited the first year of Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks because he seemed to be a disciplinarian. We all know that's not true with both coaches because Tom Thibodeau favors the veterans, and Joe Judge, obviously we know how he went out the door, but it gave me a sense of hope. Hey, listen, discipline, because I really feel with this analytics approach and some of these other different approaches, not even just analytics. Across sports leagues, it's getting softer and softer. Like Steve Nash, I feel he's a puppet. Sure, the Nets, they won against the Sixers tonight, and they put it in the Philly fans' face because there was a lot of boos and a lot of heckling to Ben Simmons tonight. But I just feel like he was a straight puppet. What the hell was his freaking name? Kenny Atkinson. I felt he was a good coach for the Nets the year before Nash was hired, and obviously that process where Kenny Atkinson was fired. It wasn't the front office who got him fired. It was probably one of the players. Kyrie maybe wasn't happy, or one of the other players wasn't happy, and they decided to fire him. Some of these other coaches across the league, I think they're too player friendly, and that's the problem. Analytics, discipline, whatever not. It seems like, and I'm not going to go as far as say, oh, the prisoners are running the asylum. No, I'm not going to say that, but I think it's just a soft approach, and that's why you have some of these teams get away with this type of crap. But also with the Yankees fans, it's a popular attraction, Yankee Stadium, and you'll have people coming in buying the chicken buckets and stuff like that, whatever. So that's just my philosophy in terms of that.
It feels like at some point it feels like the players are running the show at some point, and maybe that's a little extreme, like you said, but you know what, and it goes back to the discipline. They're at their job, and the manager is supposed to be their boss, and it seems like he's their best friend. It seems like he wants to go and bat ninth in the lineup with them. It doesn't work like that. Like, teams are out here for blood. They are trying to win World Series, and they're taking it seriously. And I like that he sticks up for his guys, like the whole "my team is savages," that whole thing with the umpire. I like that energy. I really do. That's the energy you need to win. But when you go out there and don't back it up, I mean, it's disappointing. It really is.
The problem with Boone is that he went from that to 2 years later saying, well, the umpire threw me out of a game.
Yeah.
I kind of thought it was bullying. I'm like,
he's
a leader.
He's a scumbag.
Anyway, Joseph Ligo says, what do you expect for opening day Red Sox Yankees series? I think it's going to depend a lot on free agency.
Yeah,
it's going to spring training is definitely going to be interesting in terms of these roster competitions because we have a few weeks of that. We have what, 2-ish? No, actually, no, it's not. It's about 2 weeks of spring training, which it's not the total greatest ramp up period.
That's all we need.
It's better than what they gave the players in 2020, but it's still not as great. So we'll see, if there's any roster competitions and stuff like that. Maybe Volpe beats out somebody else. I don't know. But personally, in my expectation, now obviously under Girardi, we just lost a lot of opening days. I don't know. I feel like the Red Sox will come in, take opening day, and then the Yankees win. It might be a bipolar thing where the Yankees either win the first game and drop the next two, or they drop the first game and then win the next two.
I agree. I think the Sox come in and win game one and might be that's it for the rest of the series. Remember, the Red Sox went 0-3 and got swept in Baltimore last season to open the season, and we thought the sky was falling. I don't think they're going to let that happen again. So, and like you said, the free agency period, along with the free agency period and the short spring training, is very interesting because there's going to be a lot of competition for those last final roster spots. So maybe we'll see some new talent up there that we didn't expect. It's gonna be a tight race. It's gonna come up very, very quickly, and opening day is gonna be here before we know it.
Yeah. So my next question is this, and I kind of implemented my thoughts on this. What were your thoughts? And I had a Red Sox fan the day of the wild card game because we were doing our own stream say that he kind of thought, I think this, and if I'm remembering correctly, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. He said this part of the season was the most disappointing for the Red Sox. He thought the trade deadline was very disappointing for the Red Sox. Um, what was the most disappointing part of the Red Sox season last year for you? Maybe not including playoffs. And also, what did you think of what they did at the trade deadline? Obviously, Schwarber was the main piece.
Yeah, I liked how quiet they were. I didn't think we needed a whole lot. I thought we could really see the talent, especially offensively, even early on in the season. The Red Sox were missing the killer bees in the outfield with Benintendi and Bradley, but brought in great talent. JD Martinez has been really, really good in left field when we need him to. He's a DH when we need him to as well. But I think they've done a good job of bringing in that supporting role and the versatility of everybody on defense. Like Kike Hernandez has played 8 of 9 positions in the entire field in his career multiple times, and Verdugo can play anywhere in the outfield. We're talking about Xander Bogaerts being transitioned to third base. I'm not sure if you've heard about that, but they're thinking about trading Devers. So
Wow.
we'll see where they go. But as far as last year goes, disappointing. I would say Chris Sale, probably the return of Chris Sale was probably the most disappointing because it was a big ramp up period for him to get healthy. He says, "I'm not coming back until I'm 110% healthy." We're like, "Okay, Chris, we could use you here." Coming down towards the trade deadline, not even close, they said. Chris Sale comes back, and he wasn't himself. We thought Tommy Johns was going to help him, maybe even more like it has with guys like Strasburg coming out, throwing way even harder than he was before, But it didn't work out with Sale that way. Eduardo Rodriguez was up and down. Like I said earlier, we knew the bullpen was going to be tough, but I like the way those guys fought this year. I really do. With Tanner Houck, he was very impressive with his fastball. Guys that came in, Adam Ottavino from the Yankees, he was good from us. He was really good for us. I liked him. And shout out to Hirokazu Sawamura from Japan coming over, the 34, I believe, year old with his sinker. It was a lot of fun to watch this year. The bullpen was a good surprise. The offense dominated. We almost went to the World Series. Not a lot of disappointing stuff from the Red Sox last year. They blew our expectations out of the water. They really did. I couldn't be happier, and they got a lot of talent coming up as well. So I see a lot of good things coming out of this next couple of years.
Now, two things. I'm going to include a fun fact and someone I really admire on the Red Sox because he used to be a Yankee, and this is not Adam Ottavino. But with the first part, we'll include Adam Ottavino. One of the games in my sophomore year of high school, and this is the year he was signed. You'll find that relevance in a second. We got crushed this game. We got absolutely crushed. This was a school, by the way, Dylan Betances went to. It's probably about 45 minutes away ish. It's called Grand Street Campus, and we got totally crushed that game. Of course, I happened to start that game on the mound. I don't even remember what the score was, but it was just total blowout. I mean, we only got one hit that game. the home plate umpire. And I heard a little bit of the story because he was telling my coaches was Adam Ottavino's dad. And he told us this. He told my coaches a story. I caught a snippet of it. Basically, that when the Yankees sent him like a package, basically saying "Welcome to New York," he kind of broke down in tears because he's from Park Slope, which is a part of Brooklyn. So I thought it was a really interesting story. I wanted him to work out, but that 10-run game against the Blue Jays really pissed me off. I said, you know what? Get him the fuck out of here. Get him the fuck out.
Yeah.
Um,
I
one
like
guy,
him a lot. He's a talented pitcher. It sucks he didn't work out for you guys, but yeah, I
yeah,
like him.
one of the guys I definitely admire on your team in the bullpen, Garrett Whitlock.
Man, that guy is up and down. He's the most roller coaster guy I've ever seen.
When he pitches good, he's good.
He's so good when he's good. That's cool. It's cool that you said you admire him. He's a talented guy. I think after he cut his hair last season, he started playing a little bit better. But I'm in that mindset where he was so wishy-washy when guys were starting to get good. Garrett Whitlock would come in and it would feel like I don't trust this guy right now. I really don't. I think he was good for you guys, right? If I don't,
he never got to see the majors, unfortunately.
Never saw the majors with the Yankees.
No, I think
because I know he saw the majors a lot with San Diego.
I think they cut him. San Diego. It must have been a different player with San Diego, because according to this, Garrett Whitlock was never with San Diego, but with the Yankees, his highest level, I think, was AAA, and then he got Tommy John, and then the Sox selected him in the Rule 5.
In the Rule 5, okay. I was thinking of, I probably can't even think of it right now. Okay, but I remember us picking up him from the Rule 5 draft, and the Yankees fans were pissed because they're like, this guy has potential, and then he comes over here and he played well for us.
Yeah,
that sucks that he didn't work out for you guys. That Tommy John's is tough. It really is.
Now let me ask you a question because you brought it up and I didn't know this. You said that the Red Sox could possibly trade Rafael Devers. Why and who would take over at shortstop for him? Because I know you said Bogarts is trying to train for third.
Yeah, so we have Jeter Downs at shortstop, who I'm a big fan of. I think he can play shortstop at the big leagues probably very soon. They are worried about Devers' defensive abilities. He's gotten really good with the errors at third base, but he's one of those guys that's very versatile in the trade market. He can hit the ball really hard. I think he's maybe top in the MLB, even past Giancarlo in exit velocity. So he rakes the ball. He's really good defensively. It's just one of those guys that if we have such a versatile infield and outfield with Kike and Xander being able to go anywhere we want them to, it's probably the most likely trade option for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I was just looking at his stats. I mean, they're not all too bad. One thing I can accept with certain players, and I can't stand with Gary Sanchez, obviously. I'm kind of old school in this case. I like a player that hits for average. I like a player that hits for average.
I do too.
50, around that. And I typically dislike a lot of players that strike out in the hundreds, possibly 200s. There are players that do that, Joey Gallo being one of them. But one thing I will say for certain players like Salvador Perez, Freddie Freeman, Rafael Devers, is that they strike out a lot, but they hit for average. And now you're mentioning, his defensive abilities, that puts a little worry on the Red Sox. That kind of, I was like, maybe they trade him to us, just weirdly enough. I'm like, nah, I would stay away.
It's not going to happen.
They wouldn't trade with a rival. I think they've only traded, specifically, they've only traded, and I'm talking rivals, of course. I think they traded with the Blue Jays. They traded with the Blue Jays for, I think, Urshela. But it's not like a major deal. It's just like minor leagues and, contracts and stuff like that. But I would personally, if, in my opinion, I would look to upgrade over Urshela, obviously, with Jose Ramirez from the Cleveland Guardians. Their name is Cleveland's a beautiful city, by the way. I
love Cleveland.
I didn't get a chance to go to, I'm going to call them the Indians because that was the name at the time. But we were in Cleveland. They were playing the Royals, I think. I'm like, damn, we didn't get to see them. But it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city.
So I've been there. I went to Progressive Field it was awesome. I was in there 2016, I believe, summer of 2016. might have been 2015. The Red Sox got opening day rained out in Cleveland. And it so turned out when I went to go visit my family there, the one makeup game was within the 5 days that I was in Ohio. So I'm like, this is my first ever Red Sox game. We get to go. Progressive Field is amazing. They have that simulated green monster out there in left field. It's probably the second largest left field in MLB. That park is really cool. And now they're the Guardians. I wish them the best, but that's tough. That's almost as bad as the Commanders.
Yeah, name change. Yeah, I mean, at least they didn't call themselves the Cleveland baseball team, but
It wouldn't have been that bad.
I would think they had better smarts, but then that's also a Dolan owned organization,
right?
Because that's James Dolan's brother, I think. But one of the things we could, I got 2 things left. What are the positions of need for the Red Sox? Obviously, you did mention bullpen arms, and do you have an eye on any of the free agents?
We do need a bullpen for sure. My eyes are on Anthony Rizzo as a free agent. Like I said, the first baseman, Bobby Dahlbeck, we don't know what's going to happen. I like him a lot. I want him to be our first baseman. But what I hear is the Red Sox are looking at Anthony Rizzo, somebody that knows exactly how to play that position, hits the ball pretty well. I think if there's anybody that's most likely going to sign with the Red Sox, it's going to be Anthony Rizzo. Like you said, the bullpen is going to be a struggle again, as it is for us most of the time. Honestly, I'm very impressed with the Red Sox putting together an offense that is versatile. Like I said before, I love that Kike can play anywhere in the field. I really do. Alex Verdugo is awesome. Second base is an issue for us. We had kind of a carousel of second basemen since Manny Machado took out Dustin Pedroia's knee. We haven't had a solid second baseman since then. So that's probably another need. Who do we have as free agents at second base?
I can take a look at that right now. So I have Spot Track open for MLB free agents 2022. Available starting pitchers, second base. So you have a lot of role players, if you want my honest opinion. Brad Miller, Donovan Solano, Nico Goodrum, Joe Panic, former Red Sox Brock Holt, Asdrubal Cabrera, Hunter Alberto, Jed Lowry, who I believe was a Red Sox as well, Charlie Culberson, Josh Harrison, Chris Owings, former Diamondback, Ronald Torres, former Yankee, Mike Freeman, Jose Rondon, Vil Gosselin, Breivik Valera, Keen Wong, Tyler Landendorf, and Ryan Goins. So not necessarily the greatest list, but I think Solano had a good season last year. I mean, I don't know how Asdrubal Cabrera's been doing. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't retired yet.
Well, out of those guys, I mean, I think Christian Arroyo is as talented as Chris Owings. So, you know what? We might roll with the duo of Jonathan Arauz and Christian Arroyo at second base this season. So, you know what? Look for the Red Sox to sign some more arms. That's what I'm gonna go with that. I think we're good on offense.
Steven says, who did the Pirates get yet? As of recently, they haven't gotten anybody, but they, as you mentioned, they did get Jose Quintana. I'm gonna see who they got. Let me see. Pittsburgh signed. No, I don't want it second base. Nope. I don't think they probably didn't sign anybody. I'm just gonna see. So they signed Roberto Perez, former Cleveland catcher, who struck out against Mike Ford, and I went to that embarrassing 19-5 game. Fun fact.
You saw the 19-5 game?
That was a birthday present, by the way.
Wow.
And our 2 options for that week, because I had 2 friends coming in from Pennsylvania, was either go see the Orioles, I think it was, a few days earlier, or go see the Indians against the Yankees. And it just so happened that 19-5 happened that night. And
that's tough.
The blowouts and the blow-ups, Chad Green giving up a grand slam and a lot of these different things. It was horrible. They also signed former, I think he was a Ray, Yoshi Tsutsugo. And they also
he was a Ray.
Jose Quintana. Yeah, he didn't work out with them. He was floating around the league last year.
He's a fan favorite, though.
Yeah, I could definitely tell. In terms of position need for the Yankees, I'm gonna go obviously shortstop, and obviously these are not going to be totally addressed because who do we have as the manager? Who do we have as the general manager? Who do we have as the owner? Um, Shortstop definitely. I think that needs to be addressed via free agency. First base definitely. I mean, I've seen people say, "Oh, we don't need a first baseman." The fuck, yes, we do. Freddie Freeman or Matt Olson. We need a leader and we need a hitter at first base, not someone who goes on a tear and then it's just it's downhill from there.
I agree.
Center field definitely. That's not going to happen though because Brian Cashman's obsessed with Aaron Hicks. Catcher definitely. That's probably one of the top. But the Giants, the Yankees are not signing another catcher. I mean, they could have traded for Stallings. Apparently, there was a 3-team trade possibly set up for Stallings between the Marlins, and the Marlins were supposed to get Gary Sanchez or something like that. I don't know, but that didn't pan out. So the Marlins got Stallings, and we're stuck with Gary Sanchez. We could trade for Wilson Contreras, but he's not too great offensively, but he's better defensively than Sanchez. And I guess you could use that as a 1-year holdout, and then next year go out and get Austin Wells from the system or Antonio Gomez. Shortstop, center field, first base, catcher. Those are my positions of need. Also, yeah,
that's tough.
For an underachieving team, I think we need another starting pitcher because Luis Severino, I think, is coming off Tommy John or some type of surgery. Probably is Tommy John. He pitched a couple of innings last year. He looked good, but he didn't pitch a lot of innings. So I'm not going to say, oh, he was the number 2 starter right away. A lot of people believe that. I don't believe that. Now, there's a lot of guys that have flippy-floppy records in free agency. The best pitcher out there is probably, I'm not going to say Kershaw, but I would like to stay away from Kershaw if you honestly want my opinion. Carlos Rodon, he's a good pitcher. He probably pitched the most last year in his career, but he has a ton of injury problems. So there's a high upside, but there's also he's injured a ton. So there's that. That's probably the best pitcher. And then Danny Duffy, who I think had a decent year with the Dodgers last year, but it's pretty poor at the first part of his career. So also relief pitcher, you could sign maybe one guy. I think we need like one setup guy. Personally, I know we're all for controversy in terms of the Yankees because we hired Beltran on Yes Network. We also want Correa. I want Joe Kelly in the bullpen. I think he's a shit talker. I would.
That's
love
my
Joe
guy. That is my boy, Joe Kelly. Don't
even though maybe Yankee fans still have some hate for that whole Tyler Austin incident.
That moment is my favorite moment in the last. I don't even know. Joe Kelly Fight Club. I have a T-shirt for it. Yankees fans don't like that moment.
Yeah, no, they do not. He's a shit talker. He's definitely a shit talker. But listen, if we're gonna forgive Correa, we're gonna forgive Carlos Beltran. Let's forgive Joe Kelly for what he did, even though he was a sock, he won a chip and all that. I wasn't watching that moment live, but I was doing something downstairs at the time. All I hear is "Come on, motherfucker!" and then there's a lot of shit going on in my room. And my brother was just like yelling at the TV, and his friend who was on PlayStation with him was yelling at the TV, and his dad was yelling at the TV.
I remember just yelling, just like, oh, he's coming at him. Here we go.
Yeah. Hopefully Tyler Austin is doing good in Japan, though. I think he's playing for the Bay Stars out there. So honestly, once again, for relief pitching, that's the only one I could say, look, you could just go out with the young guys, Luis Gil, Clark Schmidt, Albert Abreu could get better. Some of the other guys, Steven Ridings, there's a lot of guys who have potential in the bullpen that they need to call on. They could just get rid of Chad Green. They could get rid of Aroldis Chapman. Honestly, just cut Zach Britton. He's not playing this year anyway, so why keep him on the roster? That's dead money right there.
I think Chapman's dead money.
Yeah, basically. Stephen Park says the Pirates need to sign Justin Verlander. I don't know that they'll spend the money. I mean, personally, there were rumors before the work stoppage that the Yankees were interested. I'm like, no way. No. Personally, I don't like Verlander as a personality. I think he's a scumbag. And coming off of Tommy John, no, absolutely not.
Don't want any part of that.
No, I don't. And obviously I reflect on this. Before the whole cheating scandal, he was like he was a constant shit talker about the MLB and in certain aspects. Once that all came out, boom, he shut his mouth. Once again,
Yep.
why I don't like him. And he also, and this is going back to another fighting incident, a couple of years ago, you probably remember it. Austin Romine had a fight with Miguel Cabrera, and Victor Martinez was trying to be the peacekeeper, and Justin Verlander
And
basically didn't like it. So, I don't like Justin Verlander at one bit. I wouldn't want him on my team. MLB CBA signed. Yeah, that's the excitement.
that's why we're here, baby. Welcome.
That's why we are here, and we'll be
Yeah.
here obviously every Thursday at 9:30. One more thing to top off on. How do you think the division, pre-free agency, pre-spring training, preseason, all that stuff? How do you think the division will honestly stack up?
You know what? Let's make our early picks right now. We can change them if we need to.
Of course.
Let's make our early picks. I think the Rays are going to finish out at the top of the division. They got a really talented ball club. Almost won the World Series 2 years ago. They're gonna need some work, but this division is, I think, going to be more lackluster than it was last year. So we'll take Tampa Bay at the top. I think Boston finishes after them. I'm gonna put the Yankees up there at 3. I'm gonna take the Yankees
higher
at
regard
3.
than I am.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I don't think they win a World Series until Boone is out, but they got too much talent on that team. So who do we have? We have Tampa Bay, we have Boston. We're taking New York. We're taking Toronto. And we're taking Baltimore.
Okay, I got to get an index card of mine because I'm actually going to make my postseason, not my total postseason predictions, but like was it 6 teams now? Yeah, 6 teams because it's 12 teams. Okay, so I'll write this down. First place, you know what? I'll stick with you. I'll take the Rays. And obviously, once again, they'll win the division, so they'll be a playoff team. Second, this one's kind of tough for me. Obviously, I'm going to put the Orioles at 5. I think that's the best one. I mean, obviously,
that's the best odds.
Yeah. Fourth, I'm going to put the Yankees. Sorry, I'm being too negative, but I'm being until they sign somebody.
I love it.
It's the same team. Well, of course you have to love it. You're a Sox fan. I'm really trying to decide because here's my honest opinion about the Jays. I felt that they were, I felt that they had a lot of potential last year, and some of the signings they did make were good.
They're on the brink.
I just feel like what?
They're on the brink,
Yeah. I just feel like if they had played in their home stadium all along, they probably would have been better than they were. But the problem is they finished where they did, and they didn't go to the playoffs and all that stuff. Did they make any signings? I'm going to take a look at that. I don't think they did.
Bo Bichette is a baller. I love that guy.
Yeah. The Yankees, unfortunately, picked the wrong Bichette brother.
Right.
So they signed a relief pitcher, Yimi Garcia, so not much there. But they did sign Kevin Gausman, who had a good year last year. Just for sake, I'm going to take the Red Sox at 2, and I'm going to take the Blue Jays at 3. For the Central, I'm going to take the White Sox at 1. I'm going to take the Tigers at 2.
Hot take.
Because they have spent a little money. I want to see what they do. They signed Rodriguez and they signed Baez, but let's see if that's actually put into fruition. 3, I'm going to take the Guardians. 4, I'm going to take the Twins. And 5, I'm going to take the Royals. And then the West. That's an interesting division.
For this one, I'll take White Sox winning the division. We're gonna put the Twins in second place.
Okay.
Guardians at 3. We agree there.
Yeah.
We're gonna take the Tigers, and the Royals.
Damn, you got. I mean, it's 2 signings, so it's not necessarily stuff to get too hype off of. But damn, 4th place Tigers.
Yeah.
Ooh, the next was the West. So then I could possibly, in terms of my index card, go and pull out which teams are going to make the playoffs. By the way, yes, it was Kevin Gausman, Joe. In terms of the West, I'm definitely picking the Astros as 1. Let's see. Damn. So you in that division, you have the Mariners, you have the Astros, you have the Athletics, you have the Angels. Do you get the sense that the Athletics are going for a full rebuild, or at least
I don't know. They're another team that's on the brink. We talked about this earlier. Like if that division wasn't so, if it wasn't so top heavy, I feel like the Athletics would be more competitive. So I don't think they're going for a full rebuild yet. I really don't.
It's just kind of weird how they let Bob Melvin walk out like that and then replaced him with an unproven manager.
It's between them and Seattle that's going to be the bottom. One of those two is going to take off and one of them is going to sink. So it's up to you. What do you think between those two?
Man, because I mean, I feel like
all 3 teams can't succeed in that division. It's not going to be.
Yeah. I feel like the Angels are gonna be like 3rd, 4th place. Like they're gonna have another year where it's just like, okay, we're building again. And I'm just gonna say this: we're not talking about the Central anymore. But I feel like Terry Francona needs to get the hell out of Cleveland.
I agree.
It's been so long.
Yeah, they're not going to do anything with him.
So
you got the Angels at 4.
Let me take. Trying to think about this. Let me take the. For right now, based on the fact that they let a manager go, I'm going to take the Rangers at 2. Now, as I said, we could change this, but a little bit of a hot take. Number 3, I'm going to take Seattle. I'll take the Angels at 4 and the A's at 5.
Okay. I'm going to take Seattle at 2nd, Houston at 1st. We're going to put the Angels at 3rd. I think they're going to have a good season. We're going to put
Rangers.
We're going to put the Rangers next, and we're going to put Oakland at the bottom of the division.
That's the only one we agree on.
Yeah, it is. That's the only one we agree on.
So I guess
we made up our mind on who's going to sink and who's going to swim, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm going to make now what would be interesting is we got to make up our minds on who. Now, we're not going to predict full records because that would be pretty much, time taking.
Pointless.
But yeah, it would be pointless. But I'm going to try to make up my mind on who's making the playoffs. So definitely the White Sox, definitely the Astros. So you got your 3 division winners right there. Now you need 3 more spots ideally. So I'm taking the Red Sox. Definitely that's right there. This is interesting.
I see Minnesota. You have Minnesota. I have them at 2.
Wow. This was tough because I don't know that the Rangers are going to be. Yeah, they might be 2nd, but they're also not going to be too competitive yet. Because they did sign John Gray, they did sign Corey Seager, they did sign Marcus Semien, but what else? I mean, they probably got to figure out a couple of things in the pitching side. I mean, I'm not a Rangers fan, so I'm not going to act like I know everything, but
it seems like it just seems like that division is so like intertwined with each other that it really depends. Like I said, I really think it depends on Seattle and Oakland, and they're the anchors of that division. I really think so,
especially if the Astros. Damn. So I got 2 more teams to pick out of. I don't think anybody else from the Central is making the playoffs. Just the White Sox.
That's fair. Okay, then we got to pick from.
I'm taking. Damn, I got to stick to my guns on my hot take here. I'm taking the Rangers. Probably a 1st round loss though, because that's the way the Rangers play. And then I'm going to take the Jays.
3 teams from the East, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with Seattle. So we got the White Sox. We got the Astros. We're going to go with Seattle, Tampa Bay, Boston, and the Yankees.
I thought weren't you considering the Twins for a second?
I was considering the Twins. But we're so mixed up with that division. Who knows? The Royals could sneak up there and be good. That division's going to be a surprise. A lot of quiet baseball there in that division. But okay, so we got our picks. We'll do another one sometime whenever.
2 weeks from now.
A few weeks from now, yeah.
Yeah. So just to recap, and Sox will recap his. In terms of division, in terms of making the playoffs for the AL East, I got the Tampa Bay Rays first, making the playoffs, obviously. The Red Sox second, making the playoffs. The Blue Jays third, making the playoffs. The Yankees fourth, not making the playoffs. The Baltimore Orioles fifth, not making the playoffs. Central, I got the White Sox making the playoffs first. The Tigers not making the playoffs, they're second. The Guardians not making the playoffs, they're third. The Twins not making the playoffs, they're fourth. The Royals not making the playoffs, they're fifth. In terms of the West, obviously it's a mishmash after the Astros because you really have to decide which team is going to compete, which team is not going to compete. The Astros are obviously at 1. Number 2 is the Rangers. They will make the playoffs, and they'll be the final playoff team. The Mariners in 3rd. They will not make the playoffs. 4th, in terms of the Angels, they will not make the playoffs. And 5th, the Oakland Athletics. They will not make the playoffs. Sox?
Let's go. Should we pick our World Series champion right now?
That's actually okay. Okay. Oof.
So since you did yours, why don't you pick your World Series champion out of those teams, and then I'll pick mine.
Out of the American League or just the league overall?
Oh, okay. World Series representative from the American League.
Okay. This is interesting because to be honest, I don't think anybody out of the East is going to be a World Series rep. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think that's fair.
As strange as it sounds, I think I'm going to give it to either the Astros or the White Sox. I feel like the White Sox can build off of what happened last year. The Astros I'm kind of iffy on because, well, they're probably losing Correa to another team. George Springer's not there anymore. Jose Altuve is basically one of the only ones there from the World Series era. I mean, they still have Alex Bregman. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm trying to not be biased. I'm trying to not be biased here. I'm gonna take the Astros.
Okay.
As the World Series representative from the American League.
Okay. All right. So in the American League East, we got Tampa Bay making the playoffs. Red Sox in 2nd place making the playoffs. We got the Yankees in 3rd place making the playoffs. Central, Chicago White Sox, the only team from that division that is going to go to the playoffs. And in the American League West, we have Houston and Seattle from my side. I think they're going to be the ones that actually step on the pedal and try to win ball games, as opposed to the A's and the Angels. It seems like the Angels are always trying to win. They just can't. I just don't know what it is, man. They got so much talent. But as far as a World Series representative, and like I said, or like Big Blue in the Bronx said, I'm going to try to stay non-biased right here when we do our early season predictions.
MH in the chat, Astros can't beat the NL in the World Series. We're talking in terms of AL representatives, not necessarily making it and winning it. But obviously, MH is a Mets fan. He wants the Mets to do a lot. I mean, obviously, his owner made a lot of impact on the lockout with that extra tier. So MH is probably as happy as we are. Baseball is back. But I forget. Did you finish up on your predictions?
We're gonna do, and it might be a surprise, but I think Tampa Bay's gonna go. I really think Tampa Bay's gonna go. They got enough firepower. They got enough pitching, and I think the momentum gets on their side, and they go.
I feel like out of the 3 teams that can make it, I obviously picked the Astros as the first team that go into the World Series. I feel like the White Sox could be second because I feel like a lot of teams are going to be sleeping on them. And then I think it's going to be the Rays. So And then it'd be probably the Red Sox, then the Blue Jays and the Rangers, or however you want to flip them. Mets love
Mhm.
Red Sox fans and hate Yankee fans. I mean, yeah, every time at Fenway Park between the Mets and the Red Sox, it's the Yankees suck. So I'll be going to Boston anyway. So next
Are you
weekend,
gonna wear your stuff? Are you gonna wear your Yankee stuff?
I'm planning on it, but as you know, I'm not saying Boston is Philly, but I don't want to get my ass beat when I'm going to Fenway Park on a tour.
No, it's not that bad, especially just because baseball just got back. I think everybody's gonna be
Yeah,
everybody's really
it was just
nice.
gonna be heckling, and I know how to
Yeah,
take.
it'll just be a heckling. Yeah.
Yeah. We really don't get this a Yankees fan and a Red Sox fan having a civil conversation. Yeah, this is going to be, exception to next week because I'll be in Boston every week, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And
Um,
it might not be a civil conversation at all times. Maybe
listen,
we
we'll be
have another
calling.
Joe Kelly situation.
Yeah, no, Philly would Philly. I would get shot if I was wearing Giants gear. I mean, that actually
Dude,
happened. By the way.
you got to be careful wearing Giant stuff at Lincoln. I mean, it's a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, North Philly is just something. It's something else, really. Um, But what the hell? I forget what I was going to say now. But yeah, we will be calling Yankee Red Sox games, and there will be debates on here about in some sort of trash talk. Um,
Eventually, there will be.
yeah. Do you want to do? And I know obviously we're big AL guys. Do you want to do NL predictions?
You know what? Why not? I follow the Diamondbacks big time. I grew up in Arizona, so I'm a big Diamondbacks fan. So let's do it.
All right. So let's bang out the East first, in my opinion.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh, this is gonna be interesting. All right. So the East, the Mets obviously made some impact signings. However, I don't think they'll be first. I think it's going to be the Braves first. Then, let's see the other teams. So the Nationals, the Marlins. What team am I missing?
Nationals,
Phillies.
Marlins, Mets, Phillies.
So I'm going to take the Mets at 2. I'll give them that still respect. Yeah, there's no free agent signings as of yet. MH, nothing's happened. It's just been talks. So we really haven't gotten a lot of rumors. It's just Freddie Freeman always choosing between the Braves and the Yankees, and possibly the Dodgers, but it's mostly between those two. So I'm taking Braves, Mets. I'm going to take Phillies, Nats, Marlins.
Okay. I got the Mets winning the division this year. I think they're finally going to do it. The Braves in second place. Philadelphia, Washington, Miami.
Philadelphia, Washington, Miami. Yeah, so we pretty much mixed up the first two, and we agree on the other ones.
Yeah.
This one, another division. The Central. I'm taking St. Louis first. Let's see. Taking St. Louis first. So now I have to decide which is going to be more competitive. Is it going to be Milwaukee or is it going to be Cincinnati? I think it's going to be Milwaukee. Cincinnati. This is going to be really, for me, it's going to be a little harder to predict, who goes into the playoffs. 4, it's going to be, number 4. It's going to be the Cubs. It's going to be the Pirates at 5.
Okay. I'm probably going to take St. Louis to win that division. I think they should have won the division last year. Cincinnati's going to take second place. We'll have Milwaukee coming in at third. And we got rounding out the division is going to be Chicago and Pittsburgh.
So who'd you have as second place again?
Cincinnati.
Okay, so we'll mix up on
Cincinnati
that
went 83 and 79 last year. Finished the season with, I believe, a 7-game winning streak. Good ball club. Love Ohio. Go Reds.
And then the West, the big bad West. Oh boy. So you have the Rockies, you have the D-backs, you have the Padres, you have the Giants, you have the Dodgers. I'm going to take the Dodgers number 1. They probably flop in the playoffs again.
Hopefully.
Number 2, I'm going to take the Padres.
Nice. I love it.
Number 3, I will take the Giants. Then I think the next 2 are predictable, the Rockies and the D-backs.
Mm-hmm.
So how
All
do
right.
you match up there?
I got the San Diego Padres winning the division with Fernando Tatis and that hell of a ball club they have. It's going to be
Underachieved
really.
last year.
They did. They really did. The last year, the Padres went 79 and 83. They choked at the end of the season. I don't know if you remember. Again, I was watching a lot of AL baseball, but the San Diego Padres had the division. They had the playoffs in their back pocket
They
and,
finished
and
in the
completely dropped.
500.
Yeah, yeah. So we got San Diego winning the division. The Dodgers at second. It's going to be really close between those two teams. I got Colorado finishing at third. I think San Francisco had a fluke year. I really do. I think they're going to fall back again this season. That division is really tough. You got a talented Dodgers team, talented Padres team. And then Arizona's going to finish last again as usual.
Yeah.
And your World Series rep.
We also I got to figure out who goes to the playoffs too. Did the Pirates get anybody?
that too.
No, they did not. Okay, so for the East, who goes to the playoffs? I'm picking the Braves. I'm picking the Mets. In terms of the Central, I'm gonna do 2 by 2 actually. I'm gonna take St. Louis and Milwaukee, and then I will take the Dodgers and the Padres. So that will be the 16 playoffs.
I think the Dodgers and Padres go for sure. Sorry, I'll start with the East. I'm going to take the Mets. I'm going to take the Braves. I'm going to take the Cardinals. And we're going to go 2-2-2 as well. St. Louis and Cincinnati go to the playoffs, and the Padres and Dodgers go to the playoffs.
And that one team we disagree on is Milwaukee, Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Which is interesting. World Series.
So we called a pretty tight National League right there.
Yeah. I mean, 2 per team, 2 per division. I picked the Rays to win the playoffs, so I'm guessing he means probably either the AL side or the World Series. But that's not totally out of the question. They have a good ball club. World Series rep. I'm not going to go as far to say that the Braves were a fluke team because I don't think they were. I think they're just fundamentally sound. Ron Washington's on that staff, Brian Snitker. I feel like they have a good ball club. It's just that I don't think that they're going to go as far. I don't think the luck's going to be there. So, in terms of the World Series, I'm going to have to go with the Dodgers again. I don't think the Mets will make it far enough. St. Louis is definitely not making it far enough. Same thing with Milwaukee and the Padres. I don't think they'll make it far enough either. So, I'm going to go with the Dodgers. Oh, goddamn. That's an Astros-Dodgers World Series. Oh,
the Dodgers seem like a powerhouse up there. It really does. And that whole National League, I don't think anybody can get through them in the playoffs. I'm going to have to take the Dodgers as well.
So we've got World Series rematches. Dodgers-Rays, which was 2020. And then for me, it is the Astros and Dodgers, which was 2017.
Okay.
Very interesting set of circumstances.
But I'm sure things will change.
Definitely, especially with free agency and a lot of the other things. But Sox, if you want to give your final thoughts, I thought we had a very successful run tonight for our first episode.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Appreciate Alex for getting this thing started. I'm so happy we have baseball, man. I cannot believe it. We were looking at dark days for a while, and to be honest with you, I was worried that we might have a canceled season. I was at that point, and the fact that spring training is going to start and we're going to get into this season very fast it's very uplifting, and we have a lot to look forward. Not only could we talk about the lockout tonight, but we could talk about the upcoming season expectations. We predicted the damn near the whole tournament, so we're going to have a lot of fun this season, man. And hopefully the Sox beat the hell out of the Yankees. That's all I got to say.
Well, obviously one's going to happen, so this is enjoyable. But go back a couple of years. I remember specifically Coppizzle on one of the streams saying, "Oh, well, you probably should, have a duo. Maybe it's going to be Sox Arizona or somebody else." And we did a collab in 2021, and we because of schedules we couldn't get any others. But I'm just happy we obviously found this type of platform. Obviously, Yankees Red Sox. I don't think is anybody else doing it. Yankees Red Sox podcast, and it's far and few between. And I was very happy tonight that we actually got baseball back. Yeah, maybe no free agents signed, no rumors are happening and stuff like that. But I'm just happy we got baseball back because and we originally planned to go live either way, just as a premiere episode to get it out of the way. But if the lockout didn't end, we would have been just ranting on the owners, ranting on the players, be like, "Oh, when's baseball coming back?" And then we would have to wait. And my original plan was, okay, just wait till baseball gets back to do more episodes. But now that baseball's back, now that we got spring training games, next week, the week after, then I think the week after that is opening day, which is actually opening day. I think it's actually on a Thursday. So,
So you said you have school. So you have school that day. Are you going to be in Beantown at that time
for you talking about
for opening day?
No, I will not
You're
be.
going this Thursday. You're going this week. Okay.
Next week. Next Wednesday, I'm going to Beantown.
So are we calling the game on opening day?
It's gonna be a week. For right now, it is scheduled at 1 p.m. and I do have school. Now, one way this could work is once again, I don't know if you would have off from work or anything like that.
I'm off that day. I already looked.
But I could join in. If you were doing a broadcast on your channel, I could join in once I get home from school and we could, do the game together. So that's possibly, a way we could work at it. But we're definitely going to be calling some, Sox Yankees games. I definitely want to go to some this season. Obviously, this place isn't too far from me. I just take one train up to the Bronx.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The one way that transportation works out for you, at least if you live in New York. But I like what we're doing here. I thought we had a pretty good run for this episode, talking on a bunch of topics. And it's weird. It's funny also as well, because it's not the first time this kind of thing happened to me. Last year in March, specifically, I had a live stream set for a Saturday in terms of a mock draft and stuff like that for NFL free agency. Just so happened that day Kenny Galladay signed with the Giants. So I was obviously happy, and we did the live stream. We had a lot.
I remember that. I remember that night. I think I jumped in your live stream that night.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome that we get baseball on the day that we're set to go live. That's what a treat, man.
Yeah. God's plan for us. But obviously, subscribe to Sox. We're going to be doing some podcast episodes on there. We'll be rotating. So kind of like the Hub, Big Blue, Kid Blue, and like Chris and Bad Dog do it, rotating channels. Obviously 1 week will be this channel, 1 week will be the next. Nothing next week because I'll be in Beantown being heckled by Boston fans. But I'll be having a fun time. I've always wanted to check out Fenway Park and just see Boston in general. We were supposed to go possibly in January, but that didn't work out. So we went to Florida instead. And then we said, you know what? Hey, let's, for spring break, let's go to Boston, see what happens there. But
have a good time over there. Have some clam chowder, authentic clam chowder. Have some take some pictures of Fenway for me, man.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure inside you could sign the left field wall.
Yes, you can.
So I'll definitely take a picture of that. But I appreciate you guys for hanging out. There's going to be some NFL content coming out within the next few days because free agency starts next week, and I leave on Wednesday, so I don't want to leave you guys empty-handed. But obviously, besides the Red Sox Arizona channel, he does have another channel. What is that channel called?
Thank you. I appreciate that. That is Big Beat Reactions. We're doing a bunch of music reactions over there. Any requests that you have, just drop it. We'll be pumping those out. I'm a big music fan, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. So thanks. Appreciate that.
All right, guys. We will see you as a duo in 2 weeks. But with that being said, you'll see me live, Boys of the Big Apple, not next week, the week after that, but also in a couple of different videos. Leave comments, do all the good stuff. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time.
Peace. Go Sox.